Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow underway. The Friday edition has arrived. 6th and Peabody, our location with EHOP Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. You join us across the OutKick Network live on YouTube. Search out OutKick. Subscribe to the channel. Chad is live in the chat right now. I can see him pulling it up as we speak. Live across the great radio platform as well. If you're listening to this radio station, we say thank you. We've got a great show planned to get you ready for the football weekend. Michael Fabiano joins us in about 40 minutes from right now. He is the fantasy football expert and analyst for Sports Illustrated. He'll be with us coming up in 40 minutes. Barrett Sallee, CBS Sports college football analyst and insider. He's joining us in an hour. And Kelly in Vegas with the new show, The Fade with Clay Travis, that will be each Thursday. She joins us every Friday to get us some winners for the college football and NFL weekend. Chad, good afternoon.
I absolutely love that Kelly, after starting the show with Clay, after recording that show and putting it out there for OutKick, reached out to you and I, Hutton, and said, "Can I still do the show tomorrow?" And what was our response? Abso-freaking-lutely.
Yes.
We want you on the show every week. And thank you for offering to come on the show and give us some winners. I need some winners in a bad way. I'm already out of my eliminator pick twice now because I went with Washington last night.
And you went with good picks
thinking the Bears are dead.
The first 5 weeks of the season, you went with Minnesota.
Matt Eberflus is on one leg, just crawling out of town. They don't have a defensive coordinator. They just gave up a huge lead and lost to Sean Payton and the Broncos. They're on the road. And they get out to a 27-3 lead last night against the Commanders. Anyway, I'm a loser right now. I need to be a winner again. That's why we have Kelly in Vegas on to give us some winners.
We're going into a winning weekend, Chad.
We are.
In so many different ways. A big college football weekend.
I've got a great pitch for Kelly today, too.
Okay.
I have done well with my pitches to Kelly. That's the one pick that I've done well. And I've done well. Here's a little tease of it. I've done well with college football home favorites when they're favored by a good amount of points. I may go that route again today. Home favorites to cover.
Let's hit the top headlines of the day, the scorched earth headlines on Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. And we start with, well, what a week it's been for the accused and the now accusations of extortion artists. And that's the latest from Mel Tucker, where his lawyer, his attorneys have presented new evidence. They say they have text messages, literally have text messages from Brenda Tracy saying that she has no money, and saying that she is trying to get paid by Mel Tucker based on the making the claim that she did of inappropriate texts that were sent to her, inappropriate calls that were made to her that was not consensual in phone sex. Mel Tucker, of course, since has been fired by Michigan State in the athletic department as head football coach. He did not show to the Title IX hearing that took place or was scheduled to take place yesterday with Michigan State, and instead sent a letter to the university through his lawyers, Chad, that cite specific texts where Brenda Tracy is literally saying in this, based on the allegations from his legal team, of extortion, down to $5, taking on the $95 million coach, has exchanges trying to sell the story to places like ESPN. This gets crazy, and it goes back to the language that is in Tucker's contract about putting the university in a bad light, and his claim that, hey, this is a farce. I wasn't fired for what was going on with the Title IX investigation. I was fired because Michigan State was looking for a way out of the contract that they gave me, which, if fired with cause, saves them roughly $80 million that was remaining on his deal.
Is Michigan State going to have to hire him back?
Or reinstate him?
I mean, I'm being honest here. If they want to avoid having to pay out a lot of money in a lawsuit, would Mel Tucker want his job back? Is the other part of this. He could just say, nope, you fired me, you dismissed me.
Yeah, pay me.
And now I'm firing. I don't want to be there. You're going to pay me this money for firing me. I'm not coming back to coach your team. It's clear I'm not wanted there. He's already said the claim you brought up, Hutton, that he thinks this is all about his win-loss record.
Says he
and
did
this is a way
nothing
for
wrong.
them to get out of the money, that he did nothing wrong. It's a really tough week for sextortionists in sports, because now this is two pretty clear-cut cases based on text message evidence of women trying to extort men through sex, the old honeypot. as they call it. We saw it with Lindsey Hill, with Trevor Bauer. We discussed it ad nauseum earlier this week. And now Brenda Tracy with Mel Tucker. Here are the facts of these texts that are going on, and the fact that she's gone silent. Brenda Tracy's been contacted and is giving no comments right now on all of this. Not only was she talking about how much money he made with a friend, not only was someone apparently present with her when the phone sex took place and has testified under oath that it was 100% consensual on both sides, you also have Brenda Tracy trying to go to her friend's home to spend the night, to break into her and her family's phone and devices to delete text messages because she knew this would eventually be used against her. Brenda Tracy also has described herself via text message as a professional crier, that she can cry on command when telling her story. This stuff is sick. I mean, you want to talk about fakes and phony people in this world? Here's a classic example right here. Someone who's using a platform as a sex abuse survivor, sexual assault survivor, to make money by speaking to athletes about not sexually assaulting someone, that is out there through text message, and pretty clear evidence of this so far, that she's trying to extort Mel Tucker. And Mel Tucker lost a $95 million contract over alleged non-consensual phone sex, which even saying the phrase non-consensual phone sex sounds kind of funny to talk about. This is a mess. It's got to stop. This gives a lot of people a bad name. This clouds a lot of different situations, and in a lot of cases, it shouldn't be clouded. But these are high-profile cases now, 2 in 1 week of sextortion taking place in sports, and it's not right.
Yep, and it also references simultaneous, what they say, consensual relationships with both Mel Tucker and also engaging in a relationship with Georgia Tech basketball coach Damon Stoudemire. At the same time, all of this is going on. So he's got this through his legal team as the hearing was supposed to take place yesterday and today with the Title IX and Michigan State hearing with the board that's on campus. Of course, he's not there. He cited a serious medical issue, but again, then the letter came in to the university.
Yeah.
I mean, do they reinstate him? No. Should they? Yes. But they won't, Chad, because they're trying to get out of the contract. That's the truth of the matter here. They want out of the contract. You don't reinstate him if you're trying to get out of the deal that you gave him that was a bad contract in their eyes and based on what was happening on the football field. Yeah. It goes back to what we said. If he's winning, none of this is taking place where he's not coaching right now.
Yeah, and I guess that Michigan State could come back and say, well, now we have new evidence with these text messages that Mel Tucker's attorney has drug up through everything going on his side with the lawsuit. It's a mess. I don't know what Michigan State does. I don't think Mel Tucker wants to go back and coach that team. He's going to seek all of his money that he's owed in a buyout. That's how this thing is going to play out. And now Michigan State is left sort of, Suge Knight is dangling them off a rooftop by their ankles right now as they hire the next coach. They don't know what they can do financially.
Right.
Because they don't know how much they're going to owe Mel Tucker in all of this. The other part of this, Hutton, is through the evidence that the lawyers for Mel Tucker, that they got by investigating Brenda Tracy, she corresponded with 2 different ESPN college football reporters and a USA Today reporter and reached an exclusive deal with USA Today to basically break this news and get that out there. Some of these outlets have been remarkably silent on this new information. This is a breach of ethics. However you want to strike it. I don't care about politics of it or any of that. It's a breach of ethics. We have to get back to listening to both sides of a story. And also, I don't want someone else coming in and saying anytime a woman accuses a guy of anything, the guy's absolutely innocent. That's not the case either. But these are 2 bad stories, and they need to be covered. Not just the first allegation, not just the stuff that ESPN threw out there to get Mel Tucker fired, but every part of this story now, because we've got a very big piece of evidence that's out there that not a lot of media outlets are covering right now, and I think that's a shame.
Same with Bauer.
And someone brought this up, Hutton, and I didn't put this together. Is it a coincidence that Emi Udoka was fired for an affair with a Celtics player? Damon Stoudemire was on that staff. And ESPN was tipped off to an affair going on with Damon Stoudemire and Brenda Tracy in the same month that ESPN broke the news about Udoka. That all this was going on with correspondence with Brenda Tracy, that where she was also telling ESPN about her relationship with Damon Stoudemire. Could that have something to do with it? Someone brought that up, never even thought about the possibility. But this is what you open yourself up to.
Yeah.
When you don't just come out and say, hey, here's what happened,
well, it's
here's
like,
the story.
Treating it like Us Weekly getting an exclusive photo shoot of a wedding, Kardashian's next wedding, They're the only ones in the room that get the photographer. That's the deal that is struck here, it seems, with USA Today. And
Brenda Tracy even laid out in her text messages, this is one part that jumped out to me. She said, imagine a $95 million coach with a contract like that doing something like this, that's what's alleged. And then she referred to herself as a victim and said, I'm not just a victim when it involves a $95 million coach. I'm a, quote, good victim. Welcome to 2023.
Right.
Where you can sit there and lay out your plot to get money. Someone who had $5 in their account, and that's according to them.
Someone that goes and speaks on being a survivor of gang rape.
And someone that
goes campus to campus and, goes to different meetings.
$5 left in her account, dodging the IRS, hasn't paid taxes since 2018, and having to work her way through the IRS, trying to go out and get money, referring to herself as, quote, a good victim. That is where we are right now in society. It's a strange place to be. I just really wish that those who reported heavily on the first accusations and Mel Tucker getting fired and all that would at least come back and report this news that's out there now from his legal team.
I don't know how they can avoid it now based on the texts that are literally laid out here in this document.
And maybe they're just waiting on something to come down from Michigan State on a statement from them or them moving in this and saying they're going to consider letting him come back. I don't know what. I don't see any of those scenarios where they're going to reinstate him and Mel Tucker's going to say, okay, yeah, you guys treated me wrong in this, but I'm coming back.
Chad, Evan Neal, we mentioned yesterday.
He walked it back.
Yeah, he stood at his locker yesterday, and we touched on this. They said he's remorseful, and he's criticizing Giants fans. Those that were booing at the game against the Seahawks. Those are fans that, will be flipping burgers. Well, now he's walked that back. He did that in a social media post, and he did that in 54. You're saying that if DJ Moore had criticized Bears fans, that Bears fans would love him today?
1,000%. Yes. I'm saying that if DJ Moore criticized Bear fans that way and started producing like that and the Bears kept winning, DJ Moore would be this story of a standing ovation. Man, he's faced so much adversity from us based on what he said about us. Standing ovation. What an amazing story. Let's nominate him for an Arthur Ashe Courage Award for coming back from our booing him. Evan Neal's never going to get that because Evan Neal doesn't touch the football. 14-game
losing streak over for the Chicago Bears. 40-20 winners on the road Thursday night in their primetime slot. And all the glory that was that game. Wow. Justin Fields, he played well last week, does it again, and connects with DJ Moore. 8 receptions on 10 targets, 230 yards, 3 touchdowns. Unstoppable. And the Commanders, well, good luck, Ron Rivera.
There goes my eliminator pick with the Commanders. Tough to watch. So I stopped watching. I watched The Gold on Paramount Plus. Great show. Great British crime drama.
It's a movement weekend in college football, plus a tough week for extortion artists. We've got all of that and more coming up.
Now, yesterday, in the wake of the Trevor Bauer bombshell outing his accuser as a disgusting liar, I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today, I'm going to continue making that case. What was once born as a push to protect real victims has, in many cases, just like we saw with Bauer, turned into an awful manipulation tactic by immoral women to strip men of their power. And we, as a society, continue to just let it happen. Time and time again, it seems. Such also, as we have seen in the past, the cases of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who was on the brink of not being confirmed after being accused of sexual assault stemming from his college years. There was the 3 members of the Duke lacrosse team who were accused of raping a stripper at a party, and former Bills punter Matt Araiza, who was accused of gang rape. These are just 3 examples. all of which were proved to be untrue accusations. Men have been put through absolute torture. They have had massive opportunities stolen from them, their lives, livelihoods, and reputations devastated solely because they were Me Too'd. Meaning a woman made a claim and it was accepted as a fact, even though in all of these cases, it was nothing but a lie. The believe all women era, no matter what, must end right now. Even Matt Araiza, who was still out of a job in the NFL, realizes the threat of it. Here's what he said after being released from the Bills following his untrue accusations.
It's just the climate of how things are now. Accusations bring so much hate to anyone who decides to stand by the accuser that they were kind of forced to cut me from the team.
Now, don't get me wrong. If you are a true victim, I implore you to find the courage to come forward under any and all circumstances. However, if the behavior with the accused man was consensual, let's say, if there is an ulterior motive, maybe a money grab, a play for attention, then please spare us. Don't take the legs out from under real victims who now will no doubt have become discredited because of stunts like the ones I just mentioned. Real victims should be absolutely furious. Just because a woman says something does not mean it should be assumed as fact. And to everyone out there, be careful. Save those receipts. Finally, I also see no reason to continue a movement to protect women when women don't even take the steps to protect themselves anymore. For example, self-proclaimed feminists all over the country are in favor of having biological men in their bathrooms, in their locker rooms, in their sorority houses, in their safe spaces. And even those who aren't outwardly in favor still neglect to stand up against things like this, despite the integration causing an inherent danger for all women. Look how Virginia dad Scott Smith was treated after he confronted the Loudoun County School Board in Virginia after his 15-year-old daughter was the victim of a brutal sexual assault by a transgender in a female bathroom. How is this dad going to be attacked when he was standing up for his underage daughter? I don't understand it. Where is the concern for this girl's safety? Isn't this a Me Too concern considering she was sexually assaulted? No, it's not. And that is the problem right here, because you can't pick and choose which girls or women get protection under this awareness campaign. And on the flip side, who can be classified as an assailant?
Sixth and Peabody, our location with EHOP Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, you know how I said earlier this week that I prefer, the month of March. It's really half of March, half of April. It's, for me, walking in today, I was just thinking, it's really just about which season I'm currently living in. Yeah. October's awesome.
Yeah.
And then once March rolls around, I'll be so tired of the cold weather. It's like, man, it's the best time of year, period, for sports, because you have everything. You have the azaleas beginning to bloom at Augusta National, and a hell of a basketball tournament to lock into.
So, Hutton, I think what you're explaining to me is that you're just a guy who loves life. You love the life that you're living in that moment. Yeah. I love, this is going to sound very sentimental, but I love like morning walks.
Wow.
In nature in the fall when the weather's getting a little bit colder. And I like it. This is strange. I like it even more when there's no sun. I like an overcast
You like Dayton,
walk.
Ohio mornings.
Yes. Put me right smack in the middle of Ohio. Tyler Castle
Very
country.
gray.
Not even the northeastern part of the state.
You
Put me
want the
right
gray.
in the middle of Columbus, Dayton, smack dab, landlocked, no Great Lake around, straight grayness all the time, leaves falling, leaves turning. That's my ideal day. I love when the weather gets a little bit colder and it's overcast in the fall. That is if you ask me, what's your favorite day? It would be a Saturday or Sunday. What they stand for, what they should stand for, It's not Matt Eberflus in this year's team. It's Dick Butkus, right? It's Walter Payton.
Yeah, it's brands. It's Butkus, Ditka, Sweetness. Like the list goes on and on.
But when
who
you
can
think
describe.
Ditka and Butkus, the first thing you're thinking about are grizzled dudes with swollen knuckles and literal grit in their voice. That is the city of Chicago from a working person standpoint, and that is what I think of with the Chicago Bears. I think of breath coming out on a cold day and literal grit in someone's voice and in the way they play the game.
They were guys that fans could relate to, unlike Evan Neal.
Yes.
They're the exact opposite in terms of persona. And Butkus also
They would go flip the burgers at the tailgate with the fans. The Bears we're talking about, not make fun of someone for flipping burgers.
Well, he had a great sense of humor, Butkus. They did a nice job in SI of picking out the 9 greatest tweets by Dick Butkus. We're using a few of them here, starting with 50 Cent. 50 Cent looked like he was hit by inflation. A post by...
I didn't even know Dick Butkus tweeted, so this is all news to me.
He has one on Aaron Rodgers as well. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, help me get verified or more than your toe will be hurting.
That's amazing. From January 2022, not that long ago.
Discussing his age. Thank you, everyone who sends notes saying how your dad loved me. Don't need to hear how your grandpa loved me. I'm not that old, damn it.
Amazing.
And
this is gold.
And then a back and forth here, a throwback to an exchange with Dick Butkus. He sends out, not going to be able to respond to all of you tonight. Thank you kindly for the support. And a young fan responds and says, you killed my grandpa on the football field. And Butkus responded to him, probably deserved it.
Amazing. Well said, Dick Butkus. R.I.P. to a legend.
Yeah.
And R.I.P. to that Twitter account. Hopefully someone, maybe a Butkus grandkid, can take over the account and continue to give us some great material like that.
Chad, it is movement weekend across college football from a college football playoff perspective. And think about this in 2 ways. Number one, of course, the 14 playoff we have, but also view it through the lens of what a 12-team playoff would look like right now for teams that we haven't even considered that would be eligible as far as mentioning deserving midway through the season of trying to get into the larger playoff that we'll have starting next year. And it starts with LSU and Missouri. A big game for Missouri to stay unbeaten. They're 5-0 currently. Meanwhile, LSU not living up to the hype and expectation of the preseason, coming off of what they did a year ago. Alabama A&M. Alabama dead to rights 2 weeks ago. Now all of a sudden they've put things together at quarterback after benching their quarterback. They come back and say, he's still the best. And Milroe is now leading the charge as they head back to College Station. 2 years ago, we know how things ended on the game-winning kick for A&M. Chad was on the field for that storming. Kentucky and Georgia. Georgia, we're still uncertain about. Is this the game where they put everything together, or is this the game where Kentucky actually wins on the road in a big moment for their program, 5-0 against 5-0? Ole Miss and Arkansas. Oklahoma, Texas. Ohio State taking on a Maryland offense that can score. Both teams unbeaten there. The list goes on. But sure, we'll look back on a Week 1 win for Florida State over LSU. And we'll start to peek around the corner and see what Duke has done or what they haven't done or who's slipped up here or there. But, Chad, as far as the college football playoff is concerned, this weekend you start to stake your claim. And you position yourself in the conversation or just outside, needing other teams to pull an upset, or when you go head-to-head with the teams ahead of you, you've got to get the win. Case in point would be Notre Dame taking on Louisville, a sneaky team that's also unbeaten. I can't wait for the college football weekend.
I'm glad you mentioned that game because that's a sneaky big game because, Louisville's undefeated, first off.
Surprise, yeah. They've been the biggest surprise.
Notre Dame's not by any means dead for a college football playoff spot, given their schedule and who they have left. So that's a big road opportunity for the Irish. Alabama, A&M, I'm not even thinking as much about playoff with them as SEC West implication, SEC championship implication
in that game. And that's their path, though. But, yeah, you're right.
For both those teams, to get a head-to-head win over the other one, they both have LSU left. But LSU
the winner
now
of this
has
game,
the loss
the clear
to Ole Miss.
favorite. Yeah.
Alabama's already got the win over Ole Miss.
And what are we saying about Missouri and Kentucky if both teams win?
Well, we're saying that Kentucky is – I mean, honestly, if Kentucky goes to Georgia and wins, they're the favorite to win the SEC East. And then Missouri's in second at that point. Given the records and what's gone on, you're looking at possibly a Kentucky-Missouri race to win the SEC East, where all of a sudden Tennessee could play spoiler to one of those teams, right, when they play on the road at Kentucky and at Missouri, or other teams in the East could play spoiler. It's a big weekend. I think it's a weekend that will reset things a bit. We'll talk more about it in my top 10 games of what I think is going to happen this week. And I think what we're going to get is a little bit more of what we expected in the preseason from some of these teams. I think this is the comeback to earth week for a number of teams.
Well, just to spotlight Missouri taking on LSU, Kentucky on the road against Georgia. If both programs were to win, and we're not sitting here expecting that, not both.
I don't expect either to win, but yeah.
If both were to win, they play next week. And you have Missouri, Kentucky currently ranked 20th and 21st. Where would they be ranked? And what's the magnitude and spotlight on that game compared to the others that would be possible a week from now? Again, the unexpected matchup of huge magnitude in the top, going into the preseason, the top conference.
I mean, if Kentucky wins at Georgia, the number one team in the country, and again, the number one team in the country and two-time defending national champion, they should be top 5. They're going to catapult to the top 10, I would think.
I would think they'll be right there on 10 or 11.
9, 10, somewhere around there. They'll jump a full 10 spots.
And Missouri
in the
rankings, 21, and then they're top 15.
If both win, you're going to have probably 10 versus 13 in America with Kentucky and Missouri next week.
Where the winner comes out and is a clear in clear contention, but also
playoff
probably
contender.
right around top 5, top 7, the winner.
Yeah.
Again, unlikely, but it's been a crazy year. It's been a crazy start to the college football season.
If one of those teams wins that game, I think they become sort of, like in the SEC East for the purposes of that division, the Tennessee of last year. That could spoil things and get off to a 5-0, 6-0 type start. And Tennessee didn't truly arrive until they won at LSU. Then they beat Alabama. Then all of a sudden you look at the schedule and say they might go to the playoff and win it all.
Again, the hypothetical, Missouri 2 weeks after playing Kentucky head-to-head would then play Georgia.
This is
Athens.
The true arrival weekend for both teams.
I can't wait for your top 10 later.
You could look at this as a rival weekend for those teams, that they're on the national stage. I see this as reality check weekend for both Missouri and Kentucky.
Okay, but also stake your claim Georgia, stake your claim Texas, as far as the matchups that you have in front of you here.
Yeah.
That's also – and Alabama, who's back in it after, again, 2 weeks, dead to rights. People are wondering if Alabama's program is going the opposite direction. And hey, Jimbo Fisher, you want to end any discussion about not being the right win this game. Win this game. This is the Lane Kiffin spot that he had. Jimbo's got it now in College Station.
Well, again, how quickly things can change based on that one bad half at Miami for A&M. They win a home game against Alabama, which they did 2 years ago against a better Alabama team. They go to Knoxville the next week. If they win that game, they're talking playoff.
Yes.
I mean, you were looking at A&M and the talent on that defensive front and the way they can get after quarterbacks and stop people, and you're thinking, can this team go to the playoff? That's how quickly things can change. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's how quickly things can turn.
Chad, have we learned anything from the Duke lacrosse story?
I think we have. And I'm speaking for you and I can only speak for us on this show. You got to be careful how you respond to stories out there. This is an epidemic in news media right now. When a story happens, too many journalists with a capital J are rooting for a certain outcome, or they're shading their response to that story based on what they think is probably the likely culprit, right?
Yes.
Duke lacrosse case, perfect example of this. Rich white kids, poor minority, paying for entertainment at a party. Poor minorities claim something really awful happened, a crime took place. News media immediately jumps to, it's the rich white kids. I knew it all along. It's those damn lacrosse playing rich white kids. They clearly are guilty of everything that they've been accused of. What happens? Everyone jumps on it. They're not guilty at all. It was made up. Turns out a lot of people had egg on their face with that story. Now, fast forward a number of years later, and I think we're seeing all this happen all over again, and it happens far too often. Trevor Bauer's story comes out. Rich, white dude, pitcher, privileged, making a lot of money to pitch a baseball for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Young woman, not a lot of money, accuses him of wrongdoing. Even if you read the accounts and start thinking, it's a little fishy, I'm not so sure about all of this.
Consensual sex that went too far.
Consensual sex that went too far that then justified rape in her mind. There's conflicting reports on medical condition after the fact. But people jump on Trevor Bauer. Why? Because most in media wanted him to be guilty. We saw it with Mel Tucker also. $95 million coach. Not a white guy in this case. Race has nothing to do with it, but he's the man in power. He must be guilty. Let's just hear both sides of the story. Let's get back to that. Let's not root for an outcome first. Either way, let's not root for it one way or the other. Let's see how things unfold. We need more of that.
Well said. Michael Fabiano joins us next to get your fantasy football rosters in order.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, like who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Hell yeah, baby. I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Coming up, Barrett Sallee will join us from CBS Sports. We'll preview the college football weekend and hit the biggest headlines there. Glad you're with us for Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network every Friday at this time. Michael Fabiano joins us, the best when it comes to fantasy football analysis and preview, start, sits, and much more. He's a senior fantasy analyst for Sports Illustrated. Michael, always great to have you on, man. Hope you're well.
And I'll slide you that $20 for that glorious intro that you just gave me. Appreciate it.
So
his rate is 40, actually.
Yeah.
So you'll have to pony up.
We haven't heard. We haven't.
Forget that. I didn't sign up for 40.
We haven't heard bad advice from you yet on fantasy football so far, and I doubt we will. Your hit rate is very strong. DJ Moore last night, exceptional. What in terms of non-quarterback scoring? It depends how your league's set up. I understand that. But what's the greatest performance we've seen for non-quarterbacks? And 230 yards and 3 touchdowns, at least in the league I'm in, is producing a boatload of points. And you know you're going to win before the actual weekend even gets here.
Yeah, I'm in one league where I played against DJ Moore, Sam Howell, and Curtis Samuel last night. So I'm basically toast. And I haven't had one player even go yet. There's been a lot of really great fantasy performances. You know, Clinton Portis had, I think it was 55 or 56 fantasy points in a game. Jamal Charles has been up in that area. Doug Martin one year when he was with the Raiders had a massive stat line like that. Jerry Rice also had a game in the 50s. Anytime you hit that 50-point mark, you're up there among some of the best performances of all time.
But very few wide receivers get there, right?
Yeah, it's mostly been running backs, to be quite honest with you. There have been some wide receivers who have gotten there, especially in full-point PPR for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's been the running backs. I mean, we saw Joe Mixon do it pretty recently where he had a pretty massive game as well. I think it was last year against Carolina. I want to say he had 50 to 54 points, somewhere in that ballpark. So running backs typically are the position that'll hit that mark. Wide receivers will hit it at times, and DJ Moore was certainly a star last night.
It appears as though Cooper Kupp will return for the Rams this week in the lineup. How do you approach Cooper Kupp if you have him on your roster? And the same would go for Jonathan Taylor. We don't know if the Colts are going to play him or not. They're being coy about that. But Sunday morning when the inactives come out, if he's active, do you start him?
Probably. And I certainly start him over Zach Moss, who has done pretty admirably. He's done a great job since Taylor has been out for the first 4 weeks. Now, I'm not saying that Jonathan Taylor is a must start. I don't know what the snap count situation is going to be. The matchup's not great against the Titans. They're really good against the run. But with 4 teams on a bye and the running back position being what it is, I think if Taylor's active for the Colts, he'll probably be active in a lot of leagues from a fantasy perspective. And as for Cooper Kupp, I don't even care if there's a snap count. I'm still playing him. The Eagles' defense has not been good against wide receivers. They've struggled against the pass, which is kind of strange to think because the Eagles are seen as such an elite defense, but really they're not against the pass. And the Rams, they got something going on. I'd still start Puka Nacua. Maybe Tutu Atwell will slide over to my bench this week, but I'm really interested to see what this Rams offense is going to look like with Cooper Kupp in the mix because we all thought it was going to go down in the dumps. And to be honest with you, the numbers that Puka Nacua has put up out of nowhere have been unbelievable. And even Tutu Atwell has been pretty prominent from a statistical perspective. But yeah, if Cooper Kupp's going to play, and it looks like he will, hard to sit a guy of his caliber.
So usually hitting the panic button or showing panic is not an admirable trait to have. But sometimes it's the prudent decision to make in regards to a player. I saw Joe Burrow last week, and if I'm a Joe Burrow fantasy owner, I'm hitting the panic button on him. Is it time with Burrow?
Yeah. It's 4 games, and he's averaging 8 points a game. And he had a bad game against the Titans last week, and the Titans are awful against quarterbacks. I don't know why the Bengals just don't rest him because let's look at it this way from a fantasy standpoint. Burrow keeps playing. They have a bye coming up in week 7. And I think they have like the Niners and the Bills after that. Like probably 2 games you're going to lose with a less than 100% Joe Burrow. And then at that point, you might be out of the playoff picture altogether. And then does Zach Taylor decide at that point, well, we're just going to rest Burrow. He's going to be done for the season. And I got Jamar Chase, who I've got to worry about catching passes from Jake Browning the rest of the season. It's not a good scenario. I don't know why the Bengals aren't resting him. He's clearly not right. He is a guy who thrives downfield, just like Jamar Chase thrives downfield. And neither one of these guys, at least Chase is putting up decent numbers, but Burrow's not startable right now. He's got the Cardinals this week, and it's a good matchup. I can't play him. I'd rather have Joshua Dobbs, and I can't believe I just said that.
How about Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit? How long do we wait for him to be unveiled in totality for their lineup?
See, I don't know that he's going to be, unless David Montgomery gets hurt. David Montgomery is a good back in the prime of his career. Now, I thought Gibbs would be used more than he has been, but clearly Dan Campbell wants to lean on David Montgomery, the guy who can run between the tackles and is clearly the goal line option. He had 11 goal line looks last week. That's insane.
Yeah.
And Jahmyr Gibbs, as good as he might be at some point in the NFL, is not great from a fantasy perspective right now. He is a flex starter at best. That is David Montgomery's backfield. You don't get 34 touches in a game by accident.
So let's stay in Detroit. What about Jameson Williams and his return from the gambling suspension? How do you view him this week?
Certainly someone who needs to be rostered. I don't know if I'm playing him this week, though. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown does not practice. And if Amon-Ra doesn't play, then maybe Jameson Williams can sneak into my lineup somewhere or another. But I just don't know if there's going to be a snap count situation there. They could use Josh Reynolds as their one. Sam Laporta will continue to get burned. Khalif Raymond, they could also use there as well. So if St. Brown doesn't play, which would really be bad from a fantasy perspective because he's so good, and he would hurt the value of Jared Goff not being on the field. But maybe Jameson Williams is a flex starter in a league that starts multiple flexes. But I do have some concerns about him this week. Moving forward, we'll see that usage move up. And I just don't know how many snaps and how many routes he's going to be running right out of the gate this week. Maybe with Amon-Ra St. Brown out, if he is in fact out, Williams sees a little bit more burn, but we don't know that just yet.
I want to be brief on this, Michael, and then we'll get to your Fabs 5. Bye week snags, and we have buys actually starting this week with the Browns, Seahawks, Chargers, and Bucks. How much attention do you give to maybe a tight end or a third receiver like Josh Palmer with the Chargers? Do you snag those players if you have room for them now, or are they rotational based on buys?
I mean, Josh Palmer's probably gone. I mean, in most competitive leagues, but if he's floating around out there, absolutely I would go out and get them. If someone is dropped from one of the 4 teams, maybe someone drops, I don't know, Elijah Moore.
What about a
defense? You're hurting a wide receiver.
What about a defense?
Pick him up.
Like the Browns defense?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you should be looking ahead too.
Okay.
That's a smart thing to do with the defensive matchups as well. See what these teams are playing in week 6, grab them now, and then you'll be good to go. You kind of jump the gun, you jump the rest of your competition and maybe pick up some of those players. So certainly you should be looking at that.
Time for the Fabs 5 with Michael Fabiano of Sports Illustrated, senior fantasy analyst who joins us weekly on Hot Mic. Let's start with the starters. You're starting quarterback Jordan Love for the Packers.
Great matchup, and his floor has been like 17, 18 points. He's had 3 games over 20. The Raiders defense has not been good against quarterbacks. So this is a really good spot for Jordan Love, who has been better than we expected in the stat sheets. James Cook at running back, I like him playing the Jaguars over in jolly old London as a RB2 flex. He's getting enough volume where you could play him there. I like Breece Hall this week. I mean, listen, I know he's been bad outside of 1 game, but Denver's defense is terrible. And we also heard Robert Saleh come out and say, this is the week that we're going to unshackle Breece Hall. There's not going to be a snap count. Get him into your lineup. Michael Pittman Jr. is coming off a stinker. I like him, though, against Tennessee. They struggle against perimeter receivers. He's averaging about 14 points per game career against that AFC South rival. And sticking with the Jets, I'm going to play Garrett Wilson. I was wrong about Wilson last week. I didn't love him. I said he's a risk-reward flex. He had a good game, a lot of targets. Let's hope Zach Wilson can build off of what he did this past week against Kansas City, because he's got a good matchup against the Denver Broncos, and Garrett Wilson should benefit. Even though he could see Patrick Surtain it hasn't mattered. Denver's defense has been really bad.
Huge Jets guy this week. Who are you not big on this week? Who's going to your bench, Michael?
We mentioned Joe Burrow, and I've gotten to the point now where unless I'm in a 2 QB league, I don't know how you play him. And I hope that I am reverse jinxing Joe Burrow back into existence, and he puts up a big line because I got him at my sit of the week at quarterback. I'm a little bit superstitious, guys, but I am not playing him if I have an alternative. Najee Harris, you probably got to play him, right? I mean, it's 4 weeks where our 4 teams on a bye this week, but Najee's been bad, and he's got a bad matchup against the Ravens. I'd avoid him in DFS. Miles Sanders, who I just don't love. I mean, he's been an inconsistent fantasy running back ever since he came out of Penn State. This year, he has not been good at all. He's had maybe 1 or 2 decent games. He had a stinker last week. Chuba Hubbard looks better, and the matchup's not great in Detroit. Drake London, who scored a touchdown in London, of course, that's not coincidence, right? That's going to happen. But I don't love him against the Texans. They have been very tough against perimeter receivers. And I'd also beware George Pickens. Now, I get it. He's number 1 wide receiver for the Steelers. Ryan Pickett's back, or Kenny Pickett is back, but wow, the Steelers' offense looks bad. I mean, their defense ain't great either. And we all thought the Steelers' offense would really pick it up after looking pretty good in the preseason. It has not happened. And outside of that 71-yard touchdown that George Pickens had a few weeks back, he's really done nothing so far this season. So if you do start him, temper your expectations.
You're not benching Pickens, you're benching Matt Canada, Chad, is what I'm hearing there.
Yeah.
I would love to see the Steelers have a new man in charge of that offense. Let's just put it that way.
I wish you could draft an OC and DC on your fantasy football team and see how lowly Matt Canada would be ranked on that list of available offensive coordinators. That would be fun to follow.
I have been in leagues. There's a such thing called the Scott Fish Bowl, which you may or may not have heard of. That's pretty popular. And Scott Fish does switch up the lineups and the scoring system every single season. And there have been seasons where you could draft a head coach and you get 10 points for a win, for example.
Wow.
So I don't know about coordinators, but I've heard of the head coaches.
Let's be the first to institute that. Let's be trailblazers. We'll have our own coordinator draft at some point. We've got some questions coming in on the YouTube chat also. Jan in the chat believes that Zach Wilson is going to torch the Broncos secondary in this game, so a big Jets guy like you. Jordan asked a question, and you answered it on Love. You like him this week, and I'm starting Jordan Love on my team. Wants to know about C.J. Stroud. His question was between Jordan Love and C.J. Stroud. In general, what do you make of the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Month?
First off, I would continue to start Jordan Love until he gives me a reason not to. He's been that good. But C.J. Stroud has been fantastic. I mean, I think the most impressive thing about him is he doesn't have an interception. I mean, this guy's played 4 games in the National Football League, no interceptions. And typically, if a rookie quarterback is going to make a fantasy impact, he's got to be mobile, right? I mean, we've seen it from Cam Newton and Russell Wilson and RG3 and Vince Young. I mean, you can go back as far as you want. Mobile quarterbacks typically make a first-year impact. Stroud's not mobile, and he has made the Texans wide receiver group very fantasy relevant. In fact, they're in the top 5 in scoring right now at that position as a group, which is unbelievable. So, heck, C.J. Stroud's going to be a viable fantasy starter based on the matchups if he continues to play at this sort of a level. He's been one of the biggest surprises. I was wrong about him, and I love seeing it because he's made Nico Collins better. He's made Tank Dell a thing as well in Houston. So that's nothing but good news for fantasy managers.
Real quick, half PPR, are you starting Cortland Sutton or Dameon Pierce?
I'm going to go Sutton. I don't love Pierce this week. I don't love the matchup for him. You know that the Atlanta Falcons have allowed the second fewest fantasy points to running backs this year, behind only the Cowboys. That's kind of a shocking stat. I'd rather go with the wide receiver here. I don't love Sutton either, but I like getting points for the catches. And in that decision, I would probably go with the wide receiver there over Pierce, who needs to really get into the end zone to have a good game.
And Gabe Davis or Tank Dell?
Tank Dell.
Okay. Well, there's the passing options there for sure. But I love CJ. I've got Lamar Jackson and CJ Stroud, and they're roughly about the same amount of points currently.
You do it. Yeah, I mean, you're starting Jackson,
yeah,
but Stroud's been very good, yeah.
Hey, always great. More than very good, Michael Fabiano. Fantastic fantasy football analysis each and every week. We really appreciate this.
You got it, guys. Have a great weekend, and good luck this week.
Yep, same to you. The 12 teams that he has. The Michael _Fabiano is where you can follow him. Excellent analysis there. It does that with us each and every Friday. We're continuing with the guests. Barrett Sallee, always great. We'll break down the top matchups across college football. There are plenty of them. He's next on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Old taste of the Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network rolls on. Friday edition. Football on the horizon. We got some games tonight, too, don't we?
We do. Illinois, Nebraska. The Illini, 3.5-point favorite in that game. That game not in my top 10. I didn't want to spoil any games out there, but that did not make the top 10.
It would have 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, it was a lean weekend.
I like to walk you
and
through.
Illinois was actually doing a little bit more then.
I always like to walk you through my process, Hutton, of coming up with these top 10 games and how many games I initially jot down and just looking at the full FBS schedule for the week. This week, I thought when I was done, I'm like, oh, man, I've got like 12, 13 games to choose from. 8. I wrote down 8 games that jumped out to me. All 8 were really good.
Great, yeah.
But 8 games, so I had to add 4 and then pick 2 of those 4 to add to the bottom of the list.
I'm fascinated by the weekend, Chad, because there will be teams that I haven't paid much attention to as far as paid attention to what they've done, but not thought about in the same light as other programs. Oklahoma comes to mind.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Kentucky, Missouri. There are others. Barrett Sallee joins us.
He's thinking about the Atlanta Braves like me.
That's right.
And trying to get revenge against the Phillies starting this weekend. So we've got other things on our mind.
College football analyst for CBS Sports. Barrett, good to see you, man.
Good to see y'all. Yeah. My confidence level and nervousness level for the Braves are like up and down, up and down. Like every hour on the hour, it's a different feeling and a different emotion. And quite frankly, I don't like it.
I have zero confidence. I'll be quite honest. I saw that series last year, and I just feel like the Phillies, of all the teams, through August on, I'm just praying, just avoid the Phillies, avoid the Phillies, avoid the Phillies. Feels like one of those teams that just has that clutch gene, especially against the Braves. I don't like it, Barrett. I hope I'm wrong. But I don't love it for our Braves.
I don't like it either. And it's like, okay, why can't we do this tonight? You give the Phillies an off day today. You give the Phillies an off day on Sunday. You give it to them on Tuesday. It's like, what's the point of being the best team in baseball if you're not going to have any advantage other than being the home field? And great, like Truist is awesome, but it's still not fair from a roster standpoint that being one of the best teams of all time, we really don't get that much of an advantage. So yeah, I'm a little nervous too, especially if we lose game 1, because if we lose game 1, then pitching decisions get a little sketchy.
Barrett, as far as winning and losing tomorrow across the college football landscape, there are programs that I was mentioning right before you joined, just perception-wise, I haven't viewed through the same lens as the programs they're facing. Louisville, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. What happens to those programs with a win and the pivot point and how we view where they're headed moving forward?
Well, I think with Louisville and Oklahoma, you start to have to think of them on a little bit of a different plane, right? I'm still not sold on Oklahoma, and I don't think anyone's really watched Louisville other than the 3 sycophants that watched them play last Friday night in one of the worst football games we'll ever see against NC State. But I mean, look, those are 2 huge games. You know, those are resume builders for each of them. And I think for Texas A&M, does it validate Jimbo? Not really, but I think more so than anything else, it shows that Alabama would be slipping. I think for Texas A&M, look, the jury's still out. If they go out there and light up Alabama's defense, that might be a little bit of a different story, but I don't think anybody expects that to happen. But for Louisville and for Oklahoma, statement games that can drastically change how we look at them from, okay, cute little story to, okay, maybe they're in this mixed TCU style again.
So maybe, are you saying for Jimbo's sake, it's not the same magnitude of a win as Sarkisian had?
Yeah, not the same magnitude, because I think when Sark beat Alabama, the general consensus was that Alabama was still this behemoth. Then they played South Florida the way they played South Florida. Then, I mean, last week against Mississippi State wasn't anything to write home about. They still can't block. Like, I think a lot of the reasons Alabama lost to Texas are part of their DNA, part of their identity. And Texas A&M can exploit that from a matchup standpoint. But I think part of the reason Texas is elevated to where it is was because of what a lot of people thought of Alabama at that time. But that doesn't change the fact that Texas is really good, but maybe A&M's not going to get the same sort of reaction if they were to beat this Crimson Tide team that, I mean, look, they're good, they're not great, and they've got problems.
Wonder what the reaction is going to be in Baton Rouge if LSU has 3 losses this early in the season as they go to Missouri. I feel like LSU is a much more talented team than Missouri, but Missouri's got something cooking right now with Cook and Luther Burden. What do you think of this matchup in Columbia?
I see what you did there with something cooking.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
I like it.
Can't help but go with those word association games.
Well, and it's like when Spencer Rattler gets rattled or doesn't get rattled, you have to say rattled in some way, shape, or
No
form.
doubt.
I mean, it's like written in the contract. But yeah, I mean, with Missouri, Brady Cook has been so awesome, and he can exploit LSU's issue, which is its secondary. They have not been able to fix that all year long. And I think for LSU, if they were to come back from that and be a 3-loss team, looking forward with what they have with Alabama in Tuscaloosa, with Texas A&M, which could be a really tough matchup, and then everybody else on that schedule, there's a chance they could be a 6-6 or 7-5 team. And I think a lot of people, myself included, picked them to win the West. There are people who picked them to go to the playoffs. So if they lose to Missouri, you're looking at LSU perhaps being the biggest disappointment of the entire college football season across the national landscape, not just the SEC.
Notre Dame fans everywhere hear that, and they're pulling up that Jerry Seinfeld meme of, well, that's a shame, when they hear about Brian Kelly possibly going 6-6 this year at LSU. Yeah. Kentucky at Georgia. I think this is going to be a reality check Saturday for a couple teams in the SEC, and I think this is example number one of that one. What do you like Kentucky's chances of going to Georgia and either pulling off the upset or playing the Bulldogs really close?
Playing them tough for sure. That's tennis. Kentucky right now is like the worst possible team at the worst possible time for Georgia to match up with. I wrote that for the website for CBSSports.com today, actually. And you look at where Georgia is. The defensive front's not good. And I know folks will say, well, it's Georgia. They'll figure it out. They hadn't figured it out in 5 games yet. And they just got dominated by Auburn's offensive line. I covered the Auburn-Georgia game. Auburn's offensive line was resetting the line of scrimmage like 3 yards forward every single time. That's against Georgia. And Auburn's offensive line's crap. What are you going to do with Kentucky, who's great up front and can pound the rock better than I think a lot of teams in the country, much less the SEC? It's a reality check for Georgia for sure. For Kentucky, if they lose, okay, they lose. It's Kentucky. It's not that big of a deal. But it's the wrong team at the wrong time if you're Georgia, because you do not to get into a rock fight. And you look at the trends from a gambling perspective against FBS opponents. Georgia's 0-3-1, Kentucky's 4-0 against the spread. I think that tells you all you need to know about where those two teams stand in terms of public perception and professional perception.
How good is Louisville? I think that's the question a lot of people are asking coming into this game. We've all seen Notre Dame. They played these high-profile games already. I don't think people have paid a lot. I watched them on Friday night last week against NC State, and they survived what I think is a pretty bad NC State team. But is this team good?
Yeah, they survived in the sense that they're still breathing. I mean, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Man, that was an awful football game.
Terrible.
I think Louisville's okay. And I know that's not deep analysis, but they're well coached to a point where they can still move the football. I don't think they have an elite coach by any stretch of the imagination, because I'm not necessarily sure what Brom can do from a defensive standpoint, but he knows what needs to be done offensively. And I think that's what matters. So I believe that they can stay in every game because they're going to be a threat offensively in every single game, but they have to make sure they don't make those mistakes. They did. That game against NC State last week, it was like a turnover fest, but I think they're good enough to challenge Notre Dame, because Notre Dame's just not going to really try to do an awful lot. That's not what they do. They kind of want to play old school. They want to play ball control. They don't want to, give Sam Hartman too much, even though Sam Hartman can do an awful lot. They'd rather not have him go out there and throw for 500 yards because that's not their goal. So I think Louisville has a chance at the upset. And I think right now what we're supposed to think of them right now as, okay, they're on that sort of brink. Will they be TCU from last year? Or because if this is a win, if they beat Notre Dame, yeah, they're going to skyrocket. Or if they lose, okay, cute little story, let's wipe them off. It's like Syracuse last year. They won 5-6 straight in a row and then lost 4 or 5 to close the season. So that's kind of where Louisville is right now.
So, sorry, Hutton.
Yeah.
One off-field question, then Hutton's going to get back to asking about some matchups tomorrow. With the latest news on Mel Tucker in Michigan State, How much does this end up hurting Michigan State's ability to go out and hire a coach now that it looks like they're probably going to owe Mel Tucker a lot of money with this lawsuit that's coming out based on the info they have?
Yeah, they are. I think the biggest thing for that is how much of a short-term financial hit does Michigan State want to take? Because if they go out and they shouldn't have spent that much money on Mel Tucker to begin with, but if they want to spend that much money on whoever, they can. And I don't think it's financially unreasonable to do so because on the back end you're getting all that money from the new TV deal. So it's kind of the same discussion you have with Jimbo Fisher and firing Jimbo Fisher before the season. It's like, all right, do you want to take a short-term loss to make things more stable long-term? Michigan State can do that. So I don't think it affects their decision-making all that much. Because if the right guy is out there and is demanding $8 million a year, they can go ahead and do that. That's not a huge deal because they know on the back end, in terms of revenue, it's going to come when the new TV contract kicks in.
Barrett Sallee, our guest on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. He's from CBS Sports as the college football analyst. I'm curious to see what happens with the Pac-12 interest, and we can throw Colorado in here now with a 3-pack of games that isn't going to garner the attention that we've seen previous with Arizona State, Stanford, and UCLA. What do you think happens with prime time and the attention paid? And we really get a view of that starting tomorrow evening. And just the Pac-12 overall, which is playing great football, but we're going through a huge list of games that don't include those teams right now.
Yeah. I think with Coach Prime, it's the fact that the 3-0 start was magical, announced that he can get this done, but reality set in against USC because USC is not that good. They can't tackle. I know Colorado had a chance, but they really didn't have a chance in that game. And now beating up teams that now you should beat in Arizona State and Stanford is a different challenge because it was a completely different story for the first 4 games. The roles were reversed, and now because they were off to a 3-0 start and captured the drama, the mind of the entire country. They have to figure out how to get things done as the hunted. And they're not going to be hunted that often, right? They were against Colorado State. But now Arizona State and Stanford are significantly worse than Colorado. So I think big test. And I think Deion is smart enough to get that message across to his team, but it's a different story for 18 to 22-year-olds who probably got caught up in the hype a little bit with all the attention to actually follow through and understand how different this feeling is going to be.
How worried should Ohio State be about Maryland?
Slightly worried. If you get into a track meet with Maryland and you're Ohio State, you're going to need McCord to have a big day. I think he can do that, but he hasn't really done that all that much in a situation where he needs to. So they should be worried. I think Maryland is one of those teams, kind of like Louisville, that's sort of flown under the radar, and this is a statement game for them. And I think because of the quarterback play with the Terps, it's a little sketchy. It's not Penn State. It's not Michigan. You're not playing those kind of games. It's certainly not Notre Dame. But if the breaks go Maryland's direction and Maryland plays the way they want to, we know styles make fights, and it's going to be up to Kyle McCord to stay in that fight. And I think he can do it. I think with that receiving core, certainly it makes things easier, but we haven't seen it yet.
Barrett, do you believe that with Tez Walker ruled eligible at Carolina, that other players right now that are currently ineligible will flip the script as well? Florida State, there's a tackle at Colorado as well that come to mind.
Yeah, well, they're going to have public perception on their side because it's amazing what public backlash does to creating new information, which was not new. They didn't want to be looked at horribly like the NCAA. So they were just like, oh, we'll make them eligible. So, there's that lawsuit now in Florida. We'll see what happens in Colorado. But yeah, I think there's going to be those players that were ruled ineligible, especially after what happened with Tez Walker. Kicking and screaming. Go kicking and screaming, throw the kitchen sink at the NCAA, make it all public, and make them come out with a good case as to why they should be ineligible.
Yeah,
because the NCAA is at a point now where it's going to have to make its case in every single one of these rulings. And That's not something that I think it's prepared to do, because pretty much in all of these, the rationale, the reasoning is bad.
Yeah, and I mean, they went after Mac Brown and UNC for lashing out. That's the way you have to do it, though.
It's
You're
time,
right.
It's time to sweep, it's time to sweep
it.
the leg, right? To
You've
steal
got
a
to do
line
it.
from Karate Kid. Out of commission. Someone needs to go ahead and take them down.
Ignore
It's
their
the time.
criticism that they've had about UNC and go at it the same way. You're right. Barrett Sallee, always at it with the college football coverage for CBS Sports. Always great. Keep up the great work, man. We love the visits here on the show.
My pleasure. Hopefully next time we're talking about at least one series win for the Braves.
Yeah,
man,
go Braves. Spencer Strider on the bump Saturday night is imperative. You're right.
Well,
losing game
and
one,
here's the
not
thing.
good.
I want to know your answer to this question. If Strider loses, if the Braves lose Saturday night, you have to go Fried game 2. Yeah. But if they win, do you go Bryce Elder?
I go Bryce
AJ
Elder.
Smith-Shawver?
I go Bryce Elder, and I go with Fried and Philly.
I agree. I agree.
Great minds think alike, Barrett.
I know what that makes us, though.
Yeah. The other side of it, also think alike.
Yeah, right.
Have a fun weekend, man. Barrett Sallee, CBS Sports College Football, and it's always great catching up with him. Coming up, Baker Mayfield flipping the script. He's winning over the Tampa Bay locker room, and we'll also answer, that's my quarterback, next.
The idea that we believe all women is total nonsense. As I told you, my sister, a 25-year prosecutor, made that very clear to not only me, but certainly her son, my son, and my nephew Pete. They're all the same age, these boys. But she also warned him of women like this cretin here, this gold diggings clown that decided, I'm going to get my hooks into a big league ball player. I mean, look, big league ball players are dumb sometimes, but everybody's dumb sometimes. And Trevor Bauer, a guy named John Heyman, wrote an article which was titled, Bauer Has Lost His Career and Deservedly So. You'll never hear John Heyman, who by all accounts is a famous baseball writer, apologize. You will never hear any of these fools apologize because our print media is the worst. Now, we're lucky here at OutKick that we have great people. But the national print media, the dudes that are out there, the Greg Doyles of the world, the John Heymans of the world, the Dana Bembaus of the world, this Molly Knight, who reported that this woman had a fractured skull. That's right. This idiot Molly Knight works for The Atlantic, and she got fired, I guess, I don't know. Molly Knight is her name, not Wright, Knight. She, honest to God, wrote that this girl got her skull fractured. I looked up Molly Knight. Molly Knight is now basically unemployed, and of course, her Twitter is protected. Of course it is. This lady, Molly Knight, is a ridiculous fraud for printing that. It's all in The Athletic. It's in the affidavit. This woman, of course, went cowardly like all writers do when they're wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with John Heyman or Molly Knight coming out and saying, hey, what can I tell you? I got it wrong. But they can't do it. They can't do it because they're little posses that get a little bit of power and they don't know how to handle it. John Heyman is a little scrawny guy like Doyle that got a little bit of suck as they've gotten older, a little bit. And like politicians, they don't know how to handle it. They're the worst of the absolute worst. I got a guy from Iowa telling me, no, there's some really good writers. Yeah, Armando is. Yeah, the guys that write here are. But we're not bound by the same stupidity of USA Today. We're not governed. You can write freely here, and you can write the truth without fear of retribution as long as it's the truth. Can't do that in mainstream media, or they won't do that in mainstream media. There's got to be a bias. There's got to be an angle. There's got to be a push. If you're a woman, there's got to be a push. If you're black, got to be a push. If you're white, got to be a push. Got to be some kind of bias. I learned the other day, this was pretty funny. I know that if you do not agree with the liberal side, you will be called a name. I got a family member that calls me far right. I'm like, really? I don't even know what that means, but I get it. You're a liberal, so I'm far right. You got to call me a name. The world is insane. Good for Trevor Bauer. Cubs, sign Trevor Bauer. I'll wear a damn Trevor Bauer jersey. And you can kiss my backside on any of them. Any of them.
Fun show. Friday edition. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. 6th and Peabody are located with EHA Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, we got Kelly in Vegas coming up in 20 minutes.
One of our favorites.
Yeah. Get some winners from her.
I just looked down at the YouTube chat, and I have no idea who this is in reference to or who they're talking about, but the message just says, bet he had a mullet back in the day.
Oh. That could have been any
It's
of
probably
us.
me. I mean, I'm
me, you, or maybe Barrett.
I did in second grade when most likely to have a mullet at some point.
Was he referencing Fabiano by chance?
I don't think Fabiano is much of a mullet guy, given his accent.
I never had the mullet or the or the rat tail.
I mean,
if that's going to be the next comment.
We're all from the South, so I don't really take it as an insult when someone says you probably had a mullet back in the day, because odds are we did, or someone we know very close to us had a mullet.
Yeah,
Hell,
whoever's typing that probably
members,
has a kid with a mullet right now.
I got family members right now with mullets as fully grown adults.
Yep.
So,
how would you? Is it a Kentucky waterfall or a Mississippi mudflap?
More of a Missouri compromise, I would say, kind of right in the middle of the mudflap and the waterfall. What I like to call the compromise.
Real squirrel pellet. Squirrel tail.
Speaking of, I'm still loving Undaunted Courage, the Lewis and Clark book that you've read, Hutton.
Yeah, it's
Speaking
great.
of squirrel pelts.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're right.
I heard that immediately.
I haven't
thought of
finished
that.
it, but I intend to. Good intention.
They had a lot of beaver tails, is what I've learned about this. Very scrumptious meal in 1804.
They took liberties with the funds given, too.
Funds, yes. Native funds also were given to them along the way.
Yes.
They had their way, for sure.
Chad, speaking
Interesting
of funds,
book.
So I was down in Tampa this past weekend, and Logan Ryan, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer defensive back,
See any
held
mullets?
a fundraiser. No mullets. It was a Miami Vice theme. No mullets.
A lot of mullets in Florida, mostly northern Florida.
Mostly Gainesville.
North Florida, you have mullets, not South Florida.
Mostly Gainesville and Jacksonville.
Right.
Yeah.
We've seen all those.
Yeah. Or St. Augustine on Halloween.
PCB.
Baker Mayfield. So
I love how PCB, by the way, sounds like PCP, which is a drug. It's like the
you
same.
can find that on the floor of Days Inn.
PCB is the PCP of beach towns also.
It's been washed down the drain of the Days Inn. It's in the middle of the room.
Slants down.
Yeah.
Slants down.
Logan had mentioned there were several players with the Bucs. They got back from their game winning in New Orleans, then went on their bye, and then had some went on a trip. I heard about the trip. I didn't know it was Baker that was setting all this up. So there are a handful of Buccaneers players that were at the charity event. Those that wanted to make it were apparently with Baker. So he was known as, if you listen to Odell Beckham Jr. from what was said from his father, going back to Cleveland, it was like a 50-50 deal where you either liked Odell or you liked Baker. It wasn't both. No one. It
Split
wasn't
locker
one.
room.
Yeah, which if it's split on the quarterback,
not good.
That's not good. We know how things ended there. Things did not pick up the way they've picked up in Tampa for him in Carolina. And after the brief stint at the end of the last season in Los Angeles, here he is, and he's winning over the locker room. He's a leader, and he's also taking the linemen to the Bahamas to golf. You've got details from Peter Schrager. Baker's a dude, and the players saw it right away. Took the O-line to the Bahamas during camp after final cuts to golf. And then he's also got dive bar trips with receivers. So good for him. And if he's on the trip right now or getting back from the bye week stuff, he's winning over. That's how you win over your guys, especially the offensive line. He's taking care of them. They will take care of him.
Seems like a guy's guy. Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, but
so
why,
whenever there were the
but why
problems
has it
in
not
Cleveland,
linked up?
I always when in Cleveland, that's what I was thrown off by that because
Me
I just
too.
always assumed he was man of the people, offensive linemen love him, parties with his teammates type guy, and very easy to get along with. Apparently not the case.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing all the
Getting
right
better
things.
about that now.
Doing all the right things. Now just continue to win. This is a very winnable division for them. And they have the head-to-head win now with New Orleans. Maybe he's our quarterback this week. We'll see. It's time for That's My Quarterback with Davey Hudson.
It's my quarterback.
All right, guys.
He's going shades again.
Yes,
That's the right
always.
decision.
That's the rule. That's the
To
rule.
honor T.O., I got to do it.
Now grow a mullet out for next week. Then we're set.
Might need a little bit more time, but we can start working on that now. Maybe by Christmas, Chad.
Matt's already on his way.
But, Christmas a couple months
on his
away.
way.
But right now,
The
we're
mulcher?
in October. And if we look back, first couple of weeks of the NFL, who was your Mr. September? Who was the quarterback that came out and just absolutely made you think, wow, this guy's it. He's got that it factor.
It was Tua Tagovailoa for me. I mean, he picked up right where he left off prior to the first concussion a year ago, Chad. He had the league-leading quarterback rating, passed for 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, completed 71% of his passes. I mean, it's not just Tyreek Hill and Waddle. It's Braxton Berrios that's also getting in the mix. And they also have a run game that they can lean on. So, yeah, he capped off September with the 70-20 win over the Broncos in Week 3. And if we're just looking at that month, it is Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, Tua's a great answer. I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. And it's because I keep expecting Brock Purdy to kind of come back down to the middle a little bit. I don't expect him to hit rock bottom. I think he's a good NFL quarterback. I don't know that he's great, but he had a pretty great month. That 49ers team, I think, had the best month of any team in the league. They look to be the best team. And he's not just a game manager at this point. He's a guy who elevates that team. So give me the 7th-round pick that has been way more than that.
It's amazing.
I keep expecting to be average and has been really good for the 49ers and continues to do really good things for them. So I'm going Purdy.
Never lost.
Never has not lost a regular season game. And what is it, 9 wins now straight?
I think we're at 10.
I mean,
it's time to start giving him credit for that, not just the rest of the roster.
Did you guys see the article where he admitted he's still splitting RIT with one of his teammates?
Yeah, he makes like $870,000 a year right now, and that's not enough to have your own place, apparently, in San Fran because the cost of living is so high. It's the most expensive place in America to live.
Well, and they cannot give him a bump in pay until after year 3.
Yeah, so he's got a roommate.
That's why he's still in the rookie contract. It is a great setup for San Francisco because they've got their QB that they trust, and they're paying him literally nothing compared to what any other player on that roster is getting.
But imagine
as a 7th-round
making
pick.
over $800K and saying it's not conducive to owning my own home. I have to rent and live with someone else. That is a city out of whack with cost of living.
Well, or you get the home, you could buy the home, or you can live in a much better place and split it. You know what I mean?
Or he's just really fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I'm just going to do this now because it's cheaper and then
bank
bank my money.
But if you look at it from the long-term perspective for him, it's not like he has enough to set up, the retirement fund, quote unquote.
No.
And if he suffers a catastrophic injury,
he's done.
He's got that, and that's it. He's not owed a dime more than that for as far as injury is concerned. So, yeah, the cap hit on him is $889,000 this year.
It's not much where they were able to go out and add Randy Gregory.
They trade for Randy Gregory today to pair with that defensive line. Again, that's the additions that they can make due to the contract for because they have among the top 5 salaries for wide receiver in Deebo Samuel. They have, of course, Bosa, a couple of other players along their Christian McCaffrey, top paid running back.
The 49ers feel like the new Patriots.
Trent Williams, a great one. Yeah.
49ers are the new Patriots when it comes to reclamation projects and the way their roster is being built. Got to win a Super Bowl to get in on at least one of them to get on par with them, but that's what it feels
You're
like.
right.
All right, guys, moving right along. This next one, put me in, Coach. The quarterback that currently needs to play over their starter.
I'll start. This is a boring answer. I can't think of a single one, to be quite honest. I'm not going to sit here and claim that one backup quarterback should be starting in the NFL right now over the starting quarterback.
I mean, the one case that I would make is Jacoby Brissett in Washington, because I think the bloom is off the flower of Sam Howell, and the pressure is going to be ramped up to win games. And while Sam Howell's on the road and coming back to win in Denver, that was impressive. Brissett has the experience and the starting experience that I think would be necessary for a switch if you're looking for a boost after a losing streak and your job's on the line.
If I were to
Rivera says no changes are coming this weekend, right?
Well, that's for the staff.
Right.
So I would anticipate they continue with Sam Howell. If I were to change the question to win right now, would that alter it? And the only reason I say that is because I think the Panthers, while they aren't going to do this, they would actually have a better chance of winning in the moment if they went with Andy Dalton over Bryce Young.
Could you make the same argument for Gardner Minshew and Indy over Anthony Richardson? That maybe they win more right now with him?
Well,
I think the Andy Dalton argument's the one to make. They could win more right now with him.
We've overlooked one, though.
Is this
Mitchell Trubisky over Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
I would throw another in there.
That has been awful.
What about Taylor Heineke? You mentioned Washington. I know he's no longer there, but he's in Atlanta, and I've not been sold on Desmond Ridder.
Those are good ones. I would still go with the starter in all those
situations. It's a big
situations.
week for Atlanta.
I think I like the Dalton example, Davey, as one that, I mean, I think they would be better off right now. But I'm such a firm believer in if you go number one overall quarterback, start the clock. We got to see what this guy has. Let's get him experience.
Kenny Pickett could be the first benched.
Well, the one guy they need to bench is Najee Harris. Jalen Warren deserves more snaps than Najee, and I think you're going to see that happen sooner rather than later.
They need to bench Matt Canada and then figure out who's good after that. But both have been, all three have been bad.
We've seen Harris trend this way back to last year.
Yeah.
Well, guys, for this next one, you will not. I already know you will not be picking a Pittsburgh quarterback, but he just got that dog in him.
I'm going to go with the guy we mentioned to start this segment, Baker Mayfield. And it's not that I ever doubted that he had that dog in him, and whether it be with Oklahoma, with the Browns. He's a guy who almost had too much dog in him because he'd get himself hurt trying to run and make something happen at times.
He still does that.
I felt like he lost that leadership dog in him. I felt like he lost that ability to communicate with teammates and be the guy in the locker room. Then he goes to Carolina, and I'm thinking, okay, here's his chance. He was wrong by the Browns. Game 1 against Cleveland, and Jacoby Brissett's going to be the quarterback and not Deshaun Watson a year ago. And things fell apart in Carolina quickly. And he went to L.A., played well under Sean McVay, got some of that back. And I'm watching him now, and I'm thinking, this dude's a starting NFL quarterback again. I don't know how long it lasts, but I feel like he's got that presence and moxie back. So I'm going to go Baker Mayfield.
I immediately thought of one player because of the offseason storyline based on a cognitive test that looks like it's complete BS right now on C.J. Stroud. He's by far the best new addition from the draft. He came in and has been producing from week 1. All of this discussion about where he was going to fall and how much of the cognitive test was going to play a factor in where he was drafted. Didn't know if Houston was going to take him number 2. They ended up making the wise decision of doing so. And he's been producing at a level where the Texans can legitimately be the surprise team halfway through the season and what they've done. They demolished Pittsburgh. They're on the road this week against Atlanta, and they sit in a division where all teams are 2-2. I mean, everything's on the table. And he could end up being one of the top storylines of the NFL, not just of the rookie quarterback mix. Give me C.J. Stroud, who has that dog in him, because ultimately, can you ball or not? That's what I want to know about a player. This dude can. And maybe he's not a good test taker, but on Sundays, on the test, he's acing it compared to the others that were taking either the one ahead of him or the quarterbacks behind him that were debated to be better than he was for the Houston Texans quarterback of the future.
Well, Will Levis is one of those quarterbacks that was in that debate. He's third string currently for the Titans. Yep. And C.J. Stroud is, as Hutton said, balling out right now as a starting quarterback for the Texans.
No picks in the first 4 games, 1,200 yards passing. I mean, and by the way, the other quarterbacks that have done that and accomplished that all have Super Bowl rings to the start of their career. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and now C.J. Stroud.
Not bad.
He's got that dog in him, Davey.
I like those answers a lot.
Davey's got that dog in him. Look at those sunglasses. Can't even tell what he's thinking behind those glasses.
I don't know, Chad. I kind of did see my reflection, and it really does give off the vibe of this guy might actually be blind.
Well, it gives off that. It's always funny to me because when I see someone in sunglasses indoors, it's just really hard to get a gauge of what's going on there, period, full stop. Just nothing behind. You can't see what their eyes are thinking. You don't know.
There's more and more people that are wearing sunglasses
if they mean harm
inside,
to you, if they mean well.
But, Chad, there
really
are those, though, that can wear sunglasses inside, and you're like, oh, of course. Like that.
Like Deion.
Yeah, you pull that off.
Yeah, Deion Sanders walked in here right now and said, oh, of course he's wearing sunglasses indoors.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I have to take sunglasses off the moment I approach a doorway. I can't even get close to inside while wearing them, or it just turns everyone off.
It is more comfortable with the way the lights come down in here, having the glasses
bright
on.
Bright lights. Got to get used to these bright lights.
Well, you got to do it for T.O. T.O. indoors. Looks normal. He pulls it off.
Slightly better than David.
Rock stars on stage.
Only slightly better than David.
Rock stars on stage with sunglasses. Yes.
I'll allow it.
You get the Davey Hudson stamp of approval there.
I don't know that we see as many.
Verified. Davey verified.
I'm trying to think of the rock star that still wears the sunglasses indoors on stage.
Oh,
John Cougar Mellencamp?
I mean,
is he still rocking sunglasses?
Plenty of them. On stage. Mainly the guitar players, maybe not the the drummer that's stoned.
Is Kelly in Vegas going to make us some money?
She will.
It's time.
Kelly in Vegas joins us next. We go through the top lines of the weekend on Hot Mic.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
OutKick.com/bet. OutKick.com/bet. That is where you go based on the advice that we are about to receive from Kelly in Vegas. If you haven't taken a shot with PointsBet, now's the perfect moment. The big reason why. Exclusively for first-time PointsBet users, grab this unique offer. Right now, PointsBet users, new sign-ups, you can get up to $1,000 in second-chance bets. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, PointsBet has your back with a second chance. Get this offer by visiting OutKick.com/bet. You complete the registration process with PointsBet and make your first bet. If your first bet happens to lose, that's when the second chance bets come to play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. Head over to OutKick.com/bet now to snag this offer.
What a huge addition to OutKick.
Yeah, and you can get
big time
OutKick and The Fade with Kelly in Vegas, along with Clay Travis, each and every Thursday. And you can also find great analysis like this with the top bets for the NFL weekend.
What lines do you like? What moves do you like in the NFL slate?
Clay, I already mentioned I laid one with the Falcons earlier in the week. It's kind of a play against the Texans hype, getting a lot of love in the marketplace. I made the Falcons a 2.5-point favorite in that one, so I did lay the one early. On to the Rams, which is my best bet for this week. I took 4.5 early. I think you can still get it out there. Make sure you guys shop around over the Eagles. Yeah, I got a lot of grief. Actually, in the comments yesterday, somebody even said, wait, is this the girl that took the Bucks over the Eagles? That was me. And the reason why is because I love betting against Super Bowl losers. Jalen Hurts threw 2 picks in that game, and against any other offense, they would have lost. Unfortunately, Baker Mayfield and the Bucks had horrendous play calling and did not exploit some of the defensive woes that Philadelphia has. I do, however, think that Cooper Kupp being back, Puka being in this lineup for the Rams, plus the Rams defense. Not only are you getting the better defense plus the points here, very great betting strategy. You are getting an offense that I think is clicking a lot better than people realize. We'll see if Philadelphia can come out unscathed, but I like the points, and I think the Rams win this one.
Kelly in Vegas joins us now, where you can get the Fade on Thursday. She joins us each Friday. Kelly, good to see you.
As always, thanks for having me.
Pumped to have you on OutKick, too, with the Fade. And you and Clay have done a tremendous job.
By the way,
first week.
the highest of praise from Clay.
Yeah.
I have to reveal this. So I was talking to Clay on the phone this week, and I said, hey, man, I know that you're really busy. You've got multiple shows. Like, if you need Hutton or I to host the Fade at any point, let us know. And he immediately was like, no, I want to host that show. I actually want to be. I want to be on that show with Kelly. And I'm thinking, man, hats off to Kelly. It's like the one show. I think that Clay's like, I want to add this show with all that he's got going on. I was like, no, this is one that I want to add. So congratulations to you on that, Kelly.
Thank you. I just made a really terrible joke to our producer, Tyler, as he congratulated me before I came on air. I said, man, Clay must feel really bad for me. He's like, no. I'm going to take time out of my busy schedule to give you 30 minutes to do a show with you. No, all jokes aside, Clay and I have been friends for a very long time. And he's always been a great mentor to me, at least in the media space, maybe not so much in the sports gambling space.
Yeah. Kelly, each week, Chad and I will pitch a bet. You can take one and then crush one. And I already know the results of this based on what you just said from the NFL selections that you've made. My absolute play this week is Houston. I don't know why you say not to ride the hot hand and follow the hype. I'm doing that based on what I've seen from the Jaguars game and the Steelers game with C.J. Stroud and the way they're producing points and numbers with the passing game. Meanwhile, I also watched what the Falcons did a week ago, and then they elect not to take the bye coming back from London after getting trounced by Jacksonville, and Desmond Ritter's their quarterback throwing interceptions. Give me Houston on the road and the points.
So I'm going to go college, and this is like clockwork. Every year about this time, we get all the feel-good stories about Kentucky football. Oh, look at what Mark Stoops has done with the program. They're dominating. They're undefeated. And people forget that their schedule actually gets difficult right about now, this time of year. And this is when they start to lose games. I think Georgia's going to figure it out at some point. A year ago in Week 5, Georgia should have lost to Missouri. And then they started to get it together after that and started rolling. Give me the Bulldogs at home, minus 14.5. I think this is a 3+ touchdown beatdown for Georgia against Kentucky on Saturday night. Dog fans are going to be excited to be back at home at night. Give me Georgia big.
Yeah. Ooh, this is tough. I don't know whose bet I hate more this week, guys. I was just looking at my notes.
You've got to play one.
I could tell by she was trying to have a look on her face like she kind of liked one or the other.
No, I knew she hated mine.
She hates both. No, I knew she'd hate both.
It's not that I hate both. I just do think Kentucky has had Georgia's number at least against the spread, right? We're asking Georgia, a team that really I have yet to figure out their identity. You guys, we're 6 weeks in, and I'm like, who are the Georgia Bulldogs? We know what Kirby Smart is capable of. We have seen what this team can do. Yet I haven't really seen them kick anything into high gear as of late, right? Struggled with Auburn last week. Of course, Auburn, after I bet them against Texas A&M, puts on an absolute show offensively, doing nothing the week prior. That's kind of how it works sometimes. Look, I like Mark Stoops. I like this Kentucky Wildcats team. I'm not going to get to the window on them, but I'm definitely not laying it with Georgia and Hutton. I don't blame you for wanting to take the Texans. I do not blame you. It looks like come on in. The water's warm. It's going to be great. I promise it's going to be the easiest bet. CJ Stroud, give him the Rookie of the Year award. He is the man. No interceptions. I have been very impressed with him his Texans team. This is not a play against the Texans. This is the Falcons coming back home,
Bijan
playing in the dome. I really think this is going to be a knockout, drag-out type of game. I would not be surprised to see it being a 17-16 final with the Falcons defense finally stepping up. Desmond Ridder, though, as a favorite, trust me, it doesn't make me feel good to walk to the window and make these bets sometimes.
Are you picking Hutton's? To be clear, which one are you picking? You got to pick one or the other.
She can't pick mine because she just picked the Falcons in the fade.
Okay, so you pick mine. Just say it.
I have
you
to
pick
mine.
yours.
Okay, fine. If I have to pick, I'd rather lay it with Georgia.
All right, good. Hates both. I want to be clear to the audience. She doesn't like either one. She's not going to play either one.
It.
But if she had to pick, she would pick mine.
No, she's walking to the window on that.
Gives me a little bit of comfort as I bet that game this weekend. Kelly, you feel pretty comfortable every week giving us 3 underdogs that you like in college football. Who's your underdog parlay this week?
Oh my gosh, you guys, I just tweeted out my video. So we were having some technical difficulties this week. Come to find out, I'm not the most tech savvy person on the planet. And so my producer did a really nice job of editing my video, fixing it so the sound matched my face. But come to find out, we just found out Brennan Armstrong is not going to be playing for the Wolfpack. We actually found that out 2 days ago, but it is in the video. He was their leading rusher for the Wolfpack. And as you know, Marshall, what do? Well, they shut down the running game, right? And I thought, hey, look, they have to force this guy who's sub 55% to throw the ball instead of scrambling for his life. We'll see if it wouldn't be a long day for them. Look, Marshall's already beat one ACC team on the road this year. I know it was Virginia Tech, but the Wolfpack fans are getting restless. They have yet to beat an FBS school at home this season. I do still like Marshall plus the points. You'll notice that one hasn't moved because there is no drop off between the two quarterbacks. Next, I like Missouri. Now, this one's tough too. I got to be honest. It made me kind of uneasy to bet it because I've been against Missouri, if you guys remember, a couple of times this year. But on Tuesday, I had a really good friend of mine that I respect text me, and he goes, Kelly, who do you think the best quarterback in the SEC is? And I'm going, all right, I know this answer. And then, of course, I got to get on the Google machine because I've got to look at the stats. I've got to look at the numbers. And sure enough, he texted me Brady Cook, and I said, no way, this is not happening. And sure enough, not only is he one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, he has one of the best wide receivers in the SEC. So look, we've got a guy who hasn't thrown an interception in almost a year, almost 1,500 passing yards on the season, 11 touchdowns. I think LSU is kind of reeling here after losing that overtime game in Oxford. I mean, was that the highest scoring game we're going to see this year? Probably. Do you think they really get up for a game in Columbia? I think Mizzou plus the 6 looks really nice. And then the last one I'm going to take is Oklahoma Red River shootout rivalry, whatever they're calling it, at the Cotton Bowl this year. And last year, I will admit, I did take Oklahoma. And I was like, initially, I was like, nope, not taking Oklahoma in the spot. Looked at it a little bit deeper, and I said, wait, Dylan Gabriel ended up being out for that game, and all hell essentially broke loose. But this is the first time since 2011 both teams are undefeated. The better resume on paper might go to Texas, but let's look at this. Wyoming, Baylor, Rice, they covered one of those games. And sure, they beat an Alabama team that at the time basically had 3 separate quarterbacks. I don't know if Texas really does have the better resume here. I think Oklahoma's been pretty impressive, quietly flying under the radar, not playing anyone. And if you look at this rivalry, it seems like the dog is always barking. Oklahoma won 7 of the last 10, and I don't see this one being any differently. So if you're going to take the points here, make sure you put a little bit on that plus 190 as well.
Oklahoma, Missouri, Marshall. There's our parlay.
That was
Chad.
Great Oklahoma, Texas analysis. That's kind of changed my mind on that one a little bit.
The fear in betting against LSU, isn't it? You just don't know which LSU team shows up and the streaks that they can go on.
You know, I think it's not only that, because I think Brian Kelly, as we've spoke about on the show, is an excellent coach. That's not up for debate, but it's kind of trouble in Baton Rouge right now, right? They're not happy with how last year went, and they weren't happy how this year's started out. So, and then for me, when I really trust my numbers when I start the season and I look at teams and I've got to make adjustments, did I not make the correct assumption on Missouri early? Was I wrong, which maybe that is a real possibility as well?
That never happened.
Am I now upgrading them too quickly? So those things all really come into play when you're handicapping some of these games. And I don't usually like to talk to other people, but this week I kind of needed to. And my buddy Mark, when I called him about Mizzou, I said, hey, let's talk about this in a black and white on paper. And when he said that he thought Brady Cook was the best quarterback in the SEC, I was floored. And if you look at his stat line, he's impressive.
Are you going to the window, or if you did, how do you play A&M hosting Bama, getting 2.5?
You know, boy, I heard that the message boards in Tuscaloosa were losing their minds this week. I do a podcast with a pretty prominent bookmaker in Las Vegas, and he had heard that Jalen Milroe got hurt at practice. And when the Alabama message board people saw this, they were losing it. I mean, just losing it. And I said, whoa, just because somebody got hurt at practice doesn't mean he's not going to be playing, doesn't tell us any of the severity. You know, in Tuscaloosa and a lot of college campuses, they keep things really tight-lipped. I'm going to be honest with you. A&M was one of those teams that I wasn't that high on. If you remember, I did play Auburn thinking the better defense there was going to prevail. Maybe I was a little low on A&M, but I also think that I was a little high on Alabama. We always expect Alabama to reload. You know, last year A&M did we'll call it scare Alabama in Tuscaloosa last season. So there may be a little bit of revenge there. I think this is going to be a really good game, but I would not be surprised to see, depending on how A&M's defense shows up against whichever Alabama quarterback it may be.
But don't you have to feel pretty good that Milroe's okay based on the fact that Bama's favored on the road at this point? Vegas would know.
Essentially, right? You would feel good that he is, but you know what? I joke about it all the time in the NFL, and we don't talk about it very much in college. NFL coaches lie all the time. I have a list of coaches that if you watch their presser, you can't believe the words coming out of their mouth. And so Nick Saban, now if Nick Saban said Milroe's a go, all right, I'd believe him. But until I hear that, I don't really know.
Not confident in any of the 3 quarterbacks there, Chad.
Well, and we don't have much time here, Kelly, but I am curious. 11 a.m. for LSU, Missouri. How much do you factor in game time? Because I feel like it would help Missouri if it was at night and people were liquored up for the game. It would be a better atmosphere, right?
Really funny how you say that, because I actually said that about the K-State-Oklahoma game tonight. I'm like, God, I hate that it's a Friday night game. This is totally a game K-State would lose in Stillwater to a really subpar Cowboys team, because you're absolutely right. The fan bases at night are far more electric than they are at 11 a.m. You're getting up at 7, you get some beers in you have a couple mimosas, and that's about it. K-State performs way better at those 11 a.m. kicks than most teams do. Mizzou, though, I will say this. K-State Mizzou was a noon Eastern kick, and Mizzou came ready to play. I think this is an LSU team that always has a target on their back. But yes, more traditionally, of course you want to get the home dog at night.
Kelly in Vegas, the co-host of The Fade with Clay Travis on OutKick. Kelly, great to have you. Thanks for joining the show today. We'll do it again next week.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kelly.
Time to get rich. Follow her. Don't follow the two things that she hated with us with our play.
Mizzou's used to 11 a.m. games, though. They get a lot of them. They get a lot of them up
LSU,
there in Columbia.
Not used to that.
Nope.
Top 10 games of the college football weekend. Withrow's got them next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of the Southern legend.
Just like that. Friday edition, final hour here for Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us as we get you to the football weekend. Chad would tell me that the weekend
started
last night.
I don't even know what you're talking about. We're in the middle of the weekend right now. We're almost halfway through the weekend.
You can join Chad in the chat right now.
Started on Thursday.
Search out OutKick. Couple of NFL news and notes real quick. Randy Gregory traded from Denver to San Francisco. Gregory joined that defensive line. Swap of late-round picks in the NFL draft this year and the next year. Or let's say next year and then the year after, I should say, 24-25. Also, Chase Claypool. He's now a Miami Dolphin, traded there. And here is Mike McDaniel, Chad, who had the opportunity to speak to the media after this trade. He says he's not going to prejudge a player based on how things went for Claypool in Chicago. And instead, he'll base it on his own interactions. Quote, I'm going to give you the opportunity to define who you are in the most honest, organic, real way possible. And that's open mind, clean slate, and let's go. And then he also added in, you guys want me to say it, don't you? He's fast. It's cool.
I love this
Chase
guy.
Claypool now with the Dolphins.
And that's how you should approach it, especially if you're trading for a guy. If you're trading for him, I don't think you're coming in and saying, well, I think
it's a cheap trade, you know?
This guy's kind of been a turd.
Seventh-round
I kind of
pick.
expect the same. So
Seventh-round pick and exchange a 2025 sixth-round pick is what they get in return there for Chase Claypool. Also, Jonathan Taylor, the Colts have ruled out a handful of players. They would not say if Jonathan Taylor is playing Sunday against the Titans in Indy. Sounds like, I think it's trending towards he will. And Cooper Kupp expected to play for the Rams in his debut following his short-term stint on IR with that soft tissue injury. Chad, before we get to Sunday and all the NFL news and notes and the reality of some teams going to 1-3, now 1-4, we get a reality check across college football with some great games. It is time for Chad Withrow's top 10 games of the college football weekend.
Need more reasons to watch college football? It's time to bang some hats. Here's Chad Withrow's must-see games this weekend.
Reality check week across college football this week. 10 good games, great games, I would say 1 through 7 or 8, but good games throughout this week in college football. Let's start with number 10. We're going to the SEC.
Okay.
Those Hogs. Arkansas at Ole Miss. The Rebels, 16th ranked, an 11.5-point favorite in this game. 7:30 Eastern Time on SEC Network, the SEC Network primetime game. Arkansas needs to find a way to get the ground game going, but KJ Jefferson against Ole Miss in his career, 78%, 494 yards, 6 touchdowns through the air, 132 yards on the ground, 3 more touchdowns. He's been terrific against Ole Miss. They won it a year ago. They should have won in 2021. Ole Miss better be on high alert in this game with Arkansas coming to town. They've had some struggles early in the year, but Hutton, I like this one to be a very close game on Saturday night.
Are you calling the Hogs?
I'm calling the Hogs to cover. I would not be shocked if they pull off the upset in this game.
Both teams very sketchy. Very sketchy. I lean Ole Miss in this matchup. I want to trust Arkansas. I can't, Chad.
Yeah, we may talk about this game a little bit later also. I may be pulled,
I want to trust them.
I may be pulled to the Sam Pittman side.
Oh, wow.
The man who's throwing away his X account. He's tired of people calling him fat.
No more.
And he said,
no more lane train.
I'm done with it. He's anonymous again. And I don't blame him one bit. But I think he actually got back on because he needs it for recruiting. Game number 9.
Things went silent.
Yeah. It's like, oh, by the way, there's this linebacker in Fort Smith that's been messaging you. You got to get back on. Game number 9, Syracuse, the Orange at UNC. North Carolina 14th in the country. The Tar Heels a 9.5-point favorite, 3:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. Syracuse, their offense struggled in a 31-14 loss last week to Clemson. North Carolina has won in a different way in every game. Close game that goes to overtime against App State. It was all about their rushing attack. Their pass defense was terrific against Minnesota, shutting down the Gophers. It was their pass rush against South Carolina with 7 sacks in the opener of the season. It's a good team. Don't sleep on them. They're not just winning with Drake May through the air. Syracuse is trying to prove that they're legit this year. I think it's a sleepy sort of good game this week, Hutton.
this is a big game for Florida State to pay attention to. This helps their case. You know, it helps Notre Dame too, for that matter, based on the conference in general and how it's viewed. I side with the best quarterbacks. Give me Drake May.
I'm with you. I think North Carolina wins this one. Game number 8. Let's go to the Pac-12.
Now we're getting into the interesting matchups.
The teeth of it.
Yep.
We're going to be watching Colorado. Why? Because everyone's watching Colorado. Coach Prime is on the cover of Time magazine this week with the headline, Believer, and a picture of Deion Sanders. Does Kenny Dillingham and the Arizona State Seminoles, do they believe this week? This game on the road for Colorado in Tempe. Colorado only a 4-point favorite. Arizona State with only the one win on the year. They've struggled. This is a 6:30 Eastern time start on, I don't know if you get this, Hutton. I certainly don't. Pac-12 Network.
No, but we'll learn where it is now.
Hey, huge week for the Pac-12 Network. I've got 2 of my top 10 of the games being played there. Colorado, Hutton, the 6th worst defense in the nation so far this season. They're not playing any defense.
Did you see the comments from Deion on the self-imposed bowl ban by Arizona State?
No.
He was asked about that and what he thought about it, and he said, look, I'm focused. I don't even know what's going on. You're going to have to tell me what they did. And he responds and said, I mean, I got whoopings, and I would walk into the house after knowing I'm about to get a whooping, and I would go and tell my mom, hey, I'm not going to go to the football game tonight. I already know I'm self-imposing that ban. And he said, and the whooping would be lighter if I self-imposed that ban on myself. He understood why they did that. Great perspective in the moment from Deion.
It's also the perfect analogy for anyone who ever got a whooping before from their parents.
I got whoopings.
You just go in and fall on the sword immediately, and hey, okay, I get it. No TV tonight or whatever the punishment may be. Take it easy on me. Deion knows.
Yeah, no football game for me tonight. I'm not going to go.
I like Colorado in this game, by the way, at Arizona State.
Me too.
Game number 7. Let's go to the Big Ten. Big noon kickoff. Maryland at Ohio State. The Buckeyes 4th in the country. A 20-point favorite in this game. Maryland is tougher than most people think. Michigan State and Indiana are Michigan State and Indiana, but the Terps dominated on the ground in those games. It's not just Taulia Tagovailoa through the air for the Terps. They can run the football. Ohio State and Ryan Day, they don't have Lou Holtz to motivate them this week. I don't think he said anything about Ohio State and Maryland in this game. This is a game they absolutely should win. I'm curious to see Maryland more than anything in this game, Hutton, because we know there's a Big 2 in the Big 10 when it's Michigan and Ohio State. I think we're steadily getting a Big 3 with Penn State joining the mix. I think Maryland's 4th, and they could make a claim with a good performance and a close game in this one that they're better than a lot of us think.
Maryland, 5-0 for the first time in 22 years. They are 0-8 all-time against Ohio State. This is their first ranked opponent on their schedule, and it's on the road against Ohio State. I don't like their chances. I think it's a Big 3, not a Big 4. Maryland's close. They're just a shelf below.
I think Ohio State wins. I think Maryland has a better quarterback.
What did you say the spread is?
20. Ohio State favored by 20.
I would lay the points. I really would.
Yeah.
I think it's right on the money of a 21, 22, 23 point game.
I am curious to see if Maryland
touchdown
can hang. I think Ohio State takes care of business ultimately. I want to see if the Terps can hang in this game. And they're 5-0, undefeated right now.
But I'm glad this is as high as it is, because this is one of those sneaky games that there aren't many on Ohio State and Michigan's schedule.
No.
To pay attention to.
No.
This is one.
No, and you have to throw in the fact Maryland's undefeated. Their schedule's not great, but we'll see what happens. Game number 6, speaking of undefeated. Ryan Leaf's undefeated Cougs of Washington State. Number 13 in America. At UCLA, unranked. UCLA with the 1 loss this year. But the Bruins, a 3-point favorite in this game. 3 p.m. Eastern on Pac-12 Network. I said, huge week for the Pac-12 Network. None of us get it. We don't care. We got to find these games. Somehow, some way, we got to do it. Washington State is number 1 in the nation offensively on 3rd down conversions. Number 2 in passing with Cam Ward. 6th best offense nationally. What does UCLA have? Normally with Chip Kelly, you think a lot of speed, great offense. With UCLA, defense, pass rush. They get after the quarterback. Dante Moore is going to be a superstar in college football. True freshman quarterback for UCLA. Can he lead the Bruins to a win over a really good Washington State team? Give me the Cougs in this game, Hutton.
It's not a daunting road atmosphere that they're having to face here either. I'm taking Washington State because while it's a road test and they're the underdog, I don't see how. I think Washington State's shown me more than UCLA. Give me the Cougs. They continue to win and boast, and they should.
Game number 5 this week. The Irish of Notre Dame, 10th nationally. Top 25 matchup here, 10 versus 25. Louisville coming into this game ranked. This is 4 straight night games right now for Notre Dame. They're in the mix of this is a 3rd. Next week against USC will be their 4th. The Irish, they're getting back 2 really good receivers, Jaden Greathouse and Jaden Thomas, both back in this game. The passing game struggled a little bit for the Irish, especially the deep shots with Sam Hartman. They've been non-existent the last couple of weeks against Ohio State and then in the win over Duke. I got a hard time understanding really what Louisville is right now. Here's what I know. Jeff Brom can coach.
Yes.
They've got good balance offensively, rushing and passing.
And you trust his plan if you're in the locker room.
I trust his plan, and defensively they forced a ton of turnovers. Here's another great stat defensively for Louisville. Opposing quarterbacks completing only 47% of their passes. Something to watch as Notre Dame and Sam Hartman go head-to-head with Louisville. Give me the Irish in this game. Hutton,
I like Louisville.
You like Louisville?
I like Louisville.
Papa John Stadium. Is it still Papa John Stadium they play in?
I don't know.
I think it is. Do they
didn't
cancel
dump
that?
it? I don't know. Peyton didn't, so I guess they didn't.
Papa John Schneider? Schnatter? Papa John Schnatter didn't have to give up the naming rights? Guess not. Papa John Stadium stays. I think the Irish stay with 1 loss after they win on Saturday. Game number 4 this week. Let's stay in the Commonwealth. Well, not being played in the Commonwealth, but a team in the Commonwealth. The Kentucky Wildcats, ranked 20th nationally, undefeated on the season. At number 1, Georgia, the Bulldogs, a 14.5-point favorite. 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Ray Davis, the former Vanderbilt Commodore, ran all over Florida last week. 280 of their team's 329 yards against the Gators. Defensively, Kentucky's allowing less than 300 yards per game. Really good on defense. I said this to Kelly. Georgia a year ago should have lost at Missouri in week 5. They figured it out. They put it together. This is like clockwork, the love for the Wildcats this time of year. This is where they start to come back down to earth. I think it starts this Saturday in Athens.
It doesn't start at quarterback, though. It starts on the defensive line. Georgia is currently 11th in the SEC in tackles for loss. They are 13th in sacks in the SEC. Where's that defensive front for the Bulldogs? If it shows up here on 3rd down and pass, they win. If not, Kentucky's going to pull the upset in this game. It's in the trenches. And the top 2 teams that we thought were going to win the war in the trenches have not done that to this point.
No.
It's interesting.
Really good game in the SEC there. Game number 3. Great game in the SEC. In fact, you could argue our top 3 games, all SEC games, or at least they will be very soon. Game number 3, though, number 11, Alabama, a 1-point favorite at Texas A&M. A little bit surprised A&M's not ranked. They really had 1 bad turnover-ridden half down in South Florida against Miami. Other than that, they've been really good. They've been locked down defensively, arguably the best defensive front in the SEC. I would give them the edge right now with that defensive front. This is the CBS 3:30 Eastern Time game. Alabama with a chance to reassert their dominance and what they've been in the SEC West. Chance for A&M to prove something in this game also. Hutton, I would say take the under in this one, but I think the under is like 45.5 or 46. Very low. This should be a low-scoring defensive battle.
This comes down to, is Alabama just going to not have the dumb penalties, the self-inflicted mistakes and issues? If they don't, keep it under 10, by the way. 10 to 15 is what screwed them 2 years ago. Keep it under 10 and they win. If not, it's the trend that we've seen from Bama, and they don't have the quarterback to bail them out in the second half.
I'm going to go quick with games number 2 and 1. This may be a little bit controversial to put this one ahead of Alabama A&M, but I love it. LSU, 23rd in the country, at number 21, Missouri. The LSU Tigers, a 4-point favorite in this game. 11 a.m. on ESPN. Huge opportunity for Missouri in this game. Brady Cook, as Kelly said, statistically has been the best quarterback in the SEC. LSU's defense, terrible so far this year. This could be a shootout. I think Jaden Daniels to Malik Neighbors is going to be a big connection this game. Brady Cook to Luther Burden, going to be a big connection in this game. Over. Take the over, and this is going to be an exciting game. I don't know if it's quite the fireworks of LSU Ole Miss from a week ago, but Hutton, this is going to be a good one in high scoring.
It is, and I can't wait for your number one matchup with Texas and Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, Texas, game number 1. 12th ranked Sooners versus Texas at the Texas State Fair, Cotton Bowl. Texas, 3rd in the country. The Longhorns, a 5-point favorite. 11 a.m. Central Time on ABC. Wild things happen in the Red River Shootout every year, Hutton. Will we get some more wackiness in this game? Odds are high that will happen.
I think we will. Quinn Ewers shows up in big moments. He has this year. Give me that. Give me Quinn Ewers in Texas in a tight game. What's the spread?
5. Texas favored by 5.
I would take the points. I think it's a field goal type game.
I think Oklahoma is maybe one of the most slept on teams so far this year. To be undefeated.
You're going to learn a lot about
12th in the country.
Yeah.
We don't know as much about them. We're going to find out a lot on Saturday.
Yes. It's Kentucky. It is Oklahoma, Louisville.
Well, hey, how
Missouri.
about both of the top 1 and 2 games kicking off at 11 a.m. Central on Saturday? Good early morning slate.
Yeah, and it doesn't include Colorado.
Yep.
With all the hype. Coming up, Utah. We haven't mentioned them in a while. Or Cam Rising, an update on his injury, plus dumpster fire of the week and much more as we look ahead to the weekend.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be this stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with EHA Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us for Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow.
Davey Hudson informs us it is no longer Papa John Stadium. It is L&N Federal Credit Union Stadium.
It's probably better. Although, man, at the time, they were among the first that you knew the stadium based on the sponsorship name.
Yeah. They were maybe the first to go corporate sponsor, like more of like a smaller professional type stadium.
Yes.
When they built Papa John's, now L&N Federal whatever stadium.
Ted, are we going to see Cam Rising this year at Utah?
I don't know.
He's on ESPN 700 with a chat about his injury status. And the quote is, I wasn't really expecting to do this, but I just want to let everyone know I didn't just tear my ACL. I tore my meniscus, MPFL, MCL. It was a big surgery, and it's not an easy comeback. I've been working my tail off. There are guys that have had similar injuries to this, like Kyler Murray, Hendon Hooker, who have decided not to play. And I'm grinding and doing everything I possibly can to get back. And he says he's ahead of schedule. No one's behind schedule in their rehab. But Kyle Whittingham had publicly said things were optimistic about, that there were going to be options for him to play or even potentially be back for Florida. I just don't know why in college
they don't just say it.
They hide the reality of things. If he's not going to be available for the season, what difference does it make if you announce it in August if you're playing with the backup quarterback anyway? On the field, it's going to be the backup every single week. So why not anoint that guy the starter while Cam Rising's injured? It benefits not only Cam Rising with all the speculation, but also the backup quarterback who, is receiving a bit of grief because it's not Cam Rising. You either get behind the guy or you don't. You don't know week to week. It's not a competitive advantage. It's not that big of a deal.
My issue with the subterfuge from coaches is that it hurts the kid because then people start asking questions like, well, what? So he maybe could have played this game. What's going on? Why won't he play? What's going on? I think you can kind of protect the kid a little bit and say, here's what it is. It's going to be 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, and then we're going to reevaluate. I don't understand why you don't just say it. They're trying to hold out mystery and competitive advantage and all that.
But because they don't have to. That's the reason why they point to it.
If I'm the guy,
but I agree.
You mentioned that every rehab's ahead of schedule or whatever, right?
It always is.
But if I'm the guy that every week I'm questionable,
right?
Maybe he can go. He's given us some stuff in practice this week. Maybe he can go. And then I continue not to be able to go, but I know it's the doctor telling me I can't go for another month or whatever it is. But my coaches are leaving this mystery out there. That makes me look bad.
Yeah, and he wasn't given full clearance for full participation in practice until late last month. He's only been practicing in full for a week plus here. And the quote on that is, I'm trying to make sure I can be out there because nobody wants to be out there on the field grinding with those guys more than me. But at the end of the day, it's my body. My body has to recover. I've just been focused on continuing to improve. I'm getting closer. I've got to keep making the days count. I'll be back as soon as I'm ready to go.
And I don't think anyone's looking down on Cam Rising
or
thinks poorly of this.
Not based on this injury.
But I just
prognosis.
would not want to risk it for my guys that are hurt. I'd rather just be very upfront and honest and say, yeah, it's probably going to be a month or in a couple weeks we'll reevaluate, or just be honest
But
about
it was deemed an ACL, and I don't know why here we sit in October, and the quote initially is, I wasn't really expecting to do this, but ... And he goes into the entire injury thing. If you weren't expecting to do it, then just let the coaches say it from the jump.
I agree.
Instead of making people think you may play against Florida in week 1. It's not his problem, but I guess if he wanted it out there, he's the one who's able to say this. I mean, it is his body and his recovery, so say it if you don't expect to have to say it in October.
But the good news is for Cam Rising is he's got a new truck along with the rest of his teammates.
85 trucks. 85 through NIL. The Ford?
They're getting a
1500?
No, they're getting a Dodge Ram.
Oh, the Dodge.
Right? I think it's a Ram truck.
Now,
that all 85 scholarship players are getting.
And you get it just like this with everything is wrapped in Utah and play-by-play stuff? Maybe you immediately take it and get this unwrapped, don't you?
I hope not. I would hope they just get an actual truck. Then they're done.
Well, it's through you've got the collective that's listed on the door panel of the truck. So
they're leasing every scholarship player a 2024 Ram Bighorn 1500, which I hear, Hutton, the Bighorn is the best of the Ram trucks.
Okay.
I'm a truck guy now, so I know these things, okay?
Yeah.
Don't question it.
No, I don't.
It retails at $61,000 a pop. In total, the deal is estimated to be roughly $6 million in value.
Yeah, it's it's like you have certain trucks that are wrapped in a winner. You have the giveaway or whatever, and it's got the wrap on it for the sponsor. This is just the Utah Collective. But how about this? How about Utah with the collective with the truck deal? We hear some big money things like you hear it at Texas with the offensive linemen, or at A&M, where they just take anybody. In this case, everybody gets a truck. I mean, it's like Oprah.
So
you get a car, and you get a car.
Let's go behind the curtain here a little bit, because it's a lease, okay?
Sure. Yeah, if you leave, you give it back.
So, Hutton, we've had car deals.
We've had leases, yes.
When we had ads back in the day, we had car deals.
Yep.
I had a car deal with a Ford dealership, and the option was you can either get a lease for a year and drive basically whatever you want for free, but it's a lease, or you get a great discount on owning a car.
On your car.
I chose to own the vehicle, right? To just get the big discount and own the vehicle.
I went with the lease.
So,
but it was a certain mileage that I turned it back in.
Then you turn it back in and get another one. Look, it's cool to have this car for a year or whatever it is, but I want a collective. Call me going big here. I want a collective to come in and say, we're going to give you 85 trucks.
Well,
it's doable. You can piece together enough car dealerships.
You're not doing that, though, in the NIL transfer portal era.
To give them one.
You're not giving the player something that they're going to transfer out of in the offseason. That's why the lease makes sense in that angle.
It's just like a scholarship year to year.
You have to go turn in your keys.
Yeah, give it back to me. Sell it back.
Give me back that Bighorn.
Oh, you want to go play at Colorado State? Give me that Bighorn Ram back.
Apple and Amazon acquiring college football playoff rights. This is the next stage for the bidding war. This is how you continue to go up whenever we actually see the Power 2 conference, or the however many conferences are going to align here. You're going to see the super conference level, and that's when the streaming rights will come into play. Because college football, if you look at the TV numbers, Chad, the NFL is already getting $1 billion from Amazon. They're already trying to do some things, and are with YouTube. College football is the next stage.
Yeah.
But the next step of that takes us to the super conference. Because otherwise, if they wanted to get in now, they would have been in with the Pac-12. They would have had a TV deal through them.
The next step is the big programs want fewer and fewer people to have a piece of the pie.
Yep.
When they start to get Amazon
and those
and
negotiations
Apple
are coming
money,
up.
They want to make sure that pie has as few slices as possible. And that's where we're headed. This is why Washington State and Oregon State don't have a conference right now.
A lot of places, teams, people headed in the wrong direction. It's time for our dumpster fire of the week. And for me, guys, as we welcome in Davey Hudson again, the Washington Commanders. But it's actually about what's on the field. That's why they're the dumpster fire of the week for me. Losing to Chicago, losing in a situation where you're at home, knowing that the pressure's on about results for Ron Rivera. Win and lose. And that's really what he's being judged on. It's not how he handled things in a bad situation a year ago, because I commend him for getting a team to 8 wins and actually going through all the crap that the organization went through without leadership at the top. He was brought in to lead them through the dumpster fire. But that continues with the poor play that we've seen. And Magic Johnson, who's one of the percentage owner of the Harris Group, tweets out this last night. Tonight, the Commanders play with no intensity or fire. We didn't compete in the first half, got down 27-3 headed in halftime. It was too big of a hole to climb out of, and that's why we ended up losing 40-20. Questioning the competitive nature of your roster going into a game that you're supposed to win against the Chicago Bears, who just lost and gave up a lead to the team that lost by 50 in week 4. Here is Washington at home losing big. And Ron Rivera says there's no staff changes this weekend. The dumpster fire, though, is coming because there's going to be a full staff change at the end of the season.
I've never liked Magic Johnson more than after that tweet. Way to plainly say it as a part owner of a team.
Embarrassing loss.
Absolutely love that honesty from Magic Johnson. Big Red in the YouTube chat says, Chad, you're a truck guy now. You got to know that Dodge doesn't own Ram anymore. Believe it or not, Fiat owns the Ram brand now.
Wow.
Fiat, tiny little cars, owns Ram trucks. Did not know that. And Big Red, I take your challenge, and I accept it. As a truck guy now, I should know things like that. My apologies. And I appreciate the information.
I wish you would have been driving a Ram now because you'd be driving a Fiat.
Oh, no, I'm a Ford guy.
I just think it would be hilarious.
Fiat doesn't sound American
to me. For you to learn today that if you chose the Ram, if you chose the Bighorn, and for today to be the day you realize you were driving Fiat.
Just like I dared to cheer for Megan Rapinoe and the women's national team of America. I am American through and through, and Fiat does not sound American to me. Does not sound American-owned.
Dodge did.
You know what's American-owned? Ford. That's what I drive. A damn Ford. That's what I drive.
Same.
You know what also I don't do and I don't practice in? I don't extort people. And it's been a hell of a week for extortion artists all over this country. To Trevor Bauer's attempted extortion, to Mel Tucker's attempted extortion, it's a dumpster fire for you. This is really, that fire is really going strong right now, and the lights that's being projected from the embers of the fire, giving a light to everyone to see that, sextortion is a thing. And it's a thing with high-profile people in this country. Unfortunately, rough week for women trying to extort men through sex. And we've seen 2 examples of it that have come to light this week. So that is my dumpster fire of the week.
Chad, my dumpster fire of the week, actually an organization that I'm sure is very well familiar with extortion, but that is FIFA.
Oh, yeah.
It's been an absolute dumpster fire for FIFA, and there's 2 stories I want to get into on this one. The first one, so the 2030 World Cup initially were set to be in Spain and Portugal. Well, it turns out we're going to add Morocco to that bid, but just wait. We're actually going to make it a 3-continent World Cup because they're going to add Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. So the 2030 World Cup will be taking place on 3 continents, and it's now going – we've talked about them expanding, but this just goes to show you it's all about that money that's being changed underneath the table. We're going to have 104 games for that World Cup. I believe that will also impact 2026 as far as 104 games. I was talking with Colin beforehand. It's just getting to the point we're watering down the product. It's going to be rough. The other story that came out for FIFA within the last week was that EA Sports is doing just fine by separating from FIFA. FIFA reportedly wanted to take that rights deal where it's like, hey, the PlayStation, Xbox game, FIFA 2022 or FIFA 22, 23. Well, for 24, you're not going to have that. EA Sports is just doing their own thing. And FIFA they were under a contract where it was $150 million for that rights. FIFA said, we want to double that, and they wanted EA Sports to pay $300 million. EA Sports says, no, we're not doing that. We've got all these other license agreements that we can work with for teams, leagues, players. So they just cut FIFA out, and it looks like it's paying off for them. So FIFA really losing out there, and that's why they are my dumpster fire of the week.
Has anyone ever said good things about FIFA?
Yes, the United States, whenever they were hosting all of FIFA's executives trying to after saying that they were bribed.
I understand that Americans bribe them and that everyone bribes them. I'm just saying, like, in the general public, not the people that are paying them off to win World Cups.
No, we were bribed is what I'm saying. They offer the bribe.
FIFA offered the bribe.
Yeah, they're taking bribes.
Yeah, no, I know that countries and people pay them to bring events to them. I'm saying, anyone in the general public ever said anything good about FIFA? Is there a group of people that are like, they do a lot of good work out there? Like, NFL has all these different initiatives to give back to communities that you see, advertised during NFL games. Does FIFA do anything good?
They do for about a
I just never hear about it.
Just speaking of bribes, I'm just going to go ahead and put this one out there. 2034 World Cup will be in Saudi Arabia. Mark it down.
Yeah, because they have a deadline. Australia is given a 25-day deadline to respond to the offer from Saudi.
Well, hey, if it's about how much money you could spend to get the event, no better place to go than Riyadh for the next World Cup.
The money's there. Money was here too. Qatar had it. Qatar. How do we say it officially?
I think it's Qatar.
Well, we had the call. We had a listener like 10 years ago that was helping.
I always thought it was Qatar.
They were building the
stadiums
stadiums there, and he was listening to our show on a stream and called in and said he calls it there Qatar, but he said that Qatar is appropriate.
It's the English pronunciation.
Yeah.
It's like Kyiv and Kiev. One's Ukrainian, one's Russian.
Okay.
I don't believe that. Davey sounds very sure of himself right now.
Thanks, Devi.
I don't believe that. It's Qatar. It's not. It's not.
Best bets next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Old Taste of the Southern Legend.
Chad, how would you describe the last 3 minutes here in studio?
Oh, we found a video from a Fox affiliate in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah, really settled the debate.
2-minute video, and it's one of the anchors on the show. Basically, it has like a relative that lives in Qatar, and they're pronouncing it in Arabic, and it's an accent that I cannot pronounce. But
it sounds like Qatar.
The emphasis is on Qatar. They're
Maybe
saying like Qatar.
I'm not conceding this one.
Here is where I'm coming from. Unilaterally, we know Mexico is Mexico. But if we have to ask the question if it's Qatar or Qatar, to me...
Well, Davies' explanation is that the English pronunciation is Qatar.
Right.
But the Arabic pronunciation is
literally
Qatar.
Everyone on Fox's World Cup coverage said Qatar.
Thank you.
Qatar. Alexi Lawless, who last I checked
I'm an
speaks
American.
English,
I don't care what the rest of the world
Qatar.
thinks.
Well,
Been
do
on
you
this one
care?
before.
Do you care what everyone that covers it for Fox says? Because they said Qatar.
They're
Qatar.
in that country. Yeah, they're
Colin
going to
watched
abide
more
by
World
their
Cup than he won.
standards.
Well,
How did
it's like-
Alexi Lawless say it? Qatar.
Qatar. We also had this on GIF or GIF, and we had the guy who recently passed away, I believe. The guy who invented the GIF said it's not GIF, it's GIF.
Look, we live in a state.
If you invent something, don't you get to name it the way you want? I would have a better
Davey
name.
is from the state of Tennessee.
We don't
also.
still call it Tennessee,
We live in a state,
which is the Indian.
Hold on.
No, you're correct, but everyone knows to call it Tennessee. That's my point.
Is it Lafayette or Lafayette?
However you want to say it.
It's Lafayette. We live in a state. Look, and I love where I'm from. We just mispronounce things. There's a town close to us called Santa Fe, spelled like Santa Fe, New Mexico. They pronounce it correctly in Santa Fe, New Mexico. They pronounce it incorrectly here. So I'm not going to take in America we pronounce it Qatar. No, we can say Qatar. Everyone on the
I just don't know
broadcast
which
for
way
Fox
to say it each time I say
said
it.
Qatar.
And
They
I feel
all
like
said Qatar.
when I say a country's name, I know how to say it.
I just love the confidence in which Davey was like, no, the English pronunciation is Qatar.
I have no plans to change.
It is Qatari.
Merriam-Webster
But
Hudson.
it's someone from there,
is
right?
the new English style writer's book.
I love where I'm from, but I mean, it's not. It's Lafayette. It's not Lafayette.
Yeah, I mean, you're from where Francis von Smitto was from, Chad. I mean, you should say it like that.
I'm European. I have European blood.
Aren't we all?
I can speak all the Romance languages. I speak all of them.
I don't know where I'm from.
Yeah.
Possibly never will.
We got to figure that out.
No one cares, Chad.
We have the blood work coming in.
No one gives a damn.
I care. I want to reveal this on air.
Yes. Chad.
It's Qatar.
We've got some NFL moneymakers.
Let's book Alexi Lawless. Let's ask him. He had to say it over and over again.
Yeah,
What is it?
We've got some NFL moneymakers. Maybe I will walk in and admit fault on this. I am high on Houston this week for my NFL moneymakers. That's number one. And I've said that multiple times during the show. I like Houston on the road getting points. But another area that I love is whenever I think we're seeing King Henry, Derrick Henry, turn a corner and really pick up the pace. NFL moneymaker lock for me. Henry over 75.5 yards rushing this Sunday on the road in Indianapolis. These games are always close. The Titans have won 5 straight against the Colts. Don't look at that record. Look at the games. The last couple have been determined by defensive play on Tennessee's side, making a play to win the game. Henry wins this game if the Titans go on the road and win. I'm not betting on the Titans to go and win. I'm betting on Henry to have more than 75.5 yards rushing.
You're saying crown him. King Henry, once again, will be crowned.
Well, we'll see. I just think he's the primary focus here for the offense on the road in the Dome.
Look, I'm going to look like a genius or an idiot with this one, but let's face it, most of my gambling picks so far this football season have made me look like an idiot, so I really have nothing to lose right now. I feel like I'm playing with house money because I've been a fool most weeks. I think Jameson Williams is coming back from the suspension. It's not an injury issue. It was the gambling suspension. I think the receiver issues with the Lions and the uncertainty of their top receiver being available, they're going to make a concerted effort to get him the football. Jameson Williams, anytime touchdown right now, is plus 280.
Okay.
I'm going Jameson Williams in his return from suspension to score a touchdown against the Panthers for the Lions at home. Give me Jameson Williams plus 280 to score a touchdown.
This is interesting, Davey, because Williams and Nicholas Petit-Frere, right tackle for the Titans, eligible to return this coming week. Nicholas Petit-Frere will not return for the Titans at right tackle. Meanwhile, Jameson Williams makes his debut. I like this from Chad because he's healthy.
It's long odds, but I'm going to give it a go.
Jameson, he's got 1 catch in his career. Granted, that 1 catch did go for a touchdown. He played in several games last year. Obviously, his chances are going to continue to go up, Chad, and I think you're in on it now if Amon-Ra is not able to go.
Look, he's probably not going to even have the ball thrown his way based on my history.
No, he will.
So I fully expect disappointment.
Full participant in practice, and the fact that they said earlier this week that he's ready to go is they're getting him the football.
Guys, my NFL moneymaker lock of the week. We're going back to the well, and it revolves around Puka Nacua.
It pays.
But we're going with the under this time.
Okay.
Look at that flow.
We are
Look
just
at that hair.
shaking it up completely. Listen, Stafford has one guy. As far as the 3 fastest starts for a wide receiver in a season, 3 guys that were over 500 yards through 4 games. You got Calvin Johnson, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp. Should have said Cooper Kupp, then Puka Nacua, but you get what I'm going at.
Yes, I do.
The common theme there is Matthew Stafford. Stafford finds one guy, and he locks in on that one guy. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp will not both have success in this offense. And if Cooper's out there, look for Puka's targets, receptions, yardage to all drop tremendously. And Cooper is a all-pro wide receiver. His yardage, they've not put that out there yet to where I can bet on it. But at Puka, they have it at 62.5. Take the under.
See, this is where I think the NFL and college is getting this way too. They're way too specialized. The fact that you can't get the hot hand rookie on the field at the same time as Cooper Kupp is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There was a time frame here in Nashville. Randy Moss was claimed off waiver. They claimed they could not get both Randy Moss and Kenny Britt on the field together. That's malpractice. And if you've got a guy that is at this pace, as Davey just laid out, Cooper Kupp's going to get his, man. He's going to catch in double, triple coverage, whatever. Find a way to get both of them on the field.
I think there are plenty of examples of where football needs to go in reverse. And what I mean by that, the NFL needs to mimic the college game more. The college game needs to mimic the high school game at times. Because it's a very simple game. Your best players and your guys that produce, find ways to get them the ball and get them on the field.
Well, I like this
to start.
This example, though, is because of the quarterback, too.
Quarterback system as well, because Puka, what he's done great at is just being in the right spot at the right time. And Stafford throws the ball to where it needs to go, regardless of whether that receiver's in that position at the current time he releases it or not. Puka's done a really good job of just being there. That's why he's been reliable. But
well, Hud, to your point, though, about not getting guys in the field that are good together, find ways to do it.
Well,
they do it in college more.
Yes.
They do it in high school every single week. And colleges could even learn from high school in that.
But the assumption that his numbers
field
are going down, they should go down because you're getting Cooper Kupp back in the passing game. His numbers only go up. I mean, they're very steady and they're very high. But the fact that it should be a massive drop-off where production is just, no different than, no different than a late-round draft pick would be. It's not, I just don't buy that from put him on the field, not on the sideline.
If they were to keep them both there together, the guy that they would take off more so would be Tutu Atwell. Puka would be playing more over Atwell.
I love that
that can be specialized though based on what they need.
Puka and Tutu.
Yeah, what they need though, but like the Cooper Kupp's not leaving the field, and he shouldn't. But based on the way this guy's been playing, he shouldn't leave the field either. That's really what I'm saying. I find a way to get them on the field. It's not like they could run the ball very well.
Davey, are we sure that Puka is the English pronunciation of that name?
That's what he said, so
He'll
that's
change
what I'm
it,
going
though.
off of.
That's the other pet peeve is a player changing the way to say something.
Oh yeah, it's not Devon A-Chain, by the way. Did you guys know that?
It's like they say A-Chan.
He told him like 2 weeks ago. It's Devon A-Chain.
It's too late. It's just. It's not too late. But at what point do you just say, "Hey, it's gone on for so long"?
He was a star at A&M. I feel like he should have informed people then.
A-Chain's much easier to. It's like Theismann or Thiesman. A-Chain just sounds more like football.
I kind of respect Joe Theismann, who just
move the chains.
Well, he just accepted it. He's like, no, that's my name now. When I'm around my family, we pronounce it the way the family does. But everyone else, I'm fine being Joe Theismann, not Thiesman.
If you haven't taken your shot with PointsBet, now's the perfect moment. The big reason why, exclusively for first-time PointsBet users, this unique offer is available for you. You can get up to $1,000 in second chance bets. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, PointsBet has your back with a second chance. Get this offer by visiting OutKick.com/bet, OutKick.com/bet, and complete the registration process there with PointsBet. You make your first bet. If your first bet happens to lose, that's when the second chance bets come to play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. Head over to OutKick.com/bet right now to place your offer and take advantage of this offer and many more. OutKick.com/bet.
Before we give our wrong team favorite for the week, Colin's got a little something for us. This is Alexei Lawless saying how you pronounce the country we just disputed.
I visited Qatar a few weeks ago,
Oh,
and I'm going to be
listen
going to
to that.
Qatar in a few weeks. So
Mark it down, Alexei Lawless.
Alexei Lawless apparently agrees with
to
Davey on that.
Give everyone the knowledge that we need.
The English pronunciation. I still don't buy it. It's got it. Alexei Lawless apparently not as worldly as I thought. All right, wrong team favorite. Shall I begin?
Yes.
Arkansas won 2 years ago against Ole Miss. They should have won last year. I gave the stats earlier. KJ Jefferson has been terrific against the Rebels. Ole Miss not playing great defense, even though they won last week against LSU. It was in a shootout. I think this is a bit of a trap game for Ole Miss at home. Arkansas is limping into this game. Still got a great quarterback. Still got a great running back in Rocket Sanders. Give me the Arkansas Razorbacks. I need points, gentlemen, to get back in this competition. I'm 10 behind Davey, 14 behind Hutton. Give me an 11 and a half big points this week. Arkansas over Ole Miss.
Davey, just for clarification, we win this outright. You can see the points here, 14, 10 for you, 0 for Withrow. This is why Chad went with the 11.5. Arkansas's got to win outright. I'm taking Louisville winners outright against Notre Dame. I like the Irish team. I really do. We're sleeping on Oklahoma potentially, and here's Louisville, the best storyline of college football, really. The best story from what expectation and overachieving. And it's the second time Notre Dame is coming into their stadium as a top 10 ranked opponent. It's another night game. This is going to be the prove-it type atmosphere for the Cardinals, hosting nationally ranked Notre Dame Saturday night, ABC. And to me, I'm just buying into the fact that the atmosphere, the moment, the hype, Cardinals look to go 6-0 for the first time since 2013. It's a chance to stake their claim that they've got a great head coach. We know that. But they have a very good college football team for this college football season. This football season feels like a night where Louisville beats Notre Dame at home. Just how the trends have been week to week.
And the formerly known as Papa John Stadium.
I think Notre Dame, since they've had that like quasi tie in with the ACC, they're 30-0 against ACC opponents. So I would like to see you get one.
You also said that the Bears wouldn't lose for another full year or something. So.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd get that. So
I I was wrong about the Bears last night.
And they're coming off a very bad performance. I'm glad they had the bad performance and a win over NC State instead of what's going to happen Saturday, which is going to be a nice win.
I have the Washington State Cougars over the UCLA Bruins. I like this pick a lot for Cam Ward, what he's been able to do with that offense up in Pullman. The last time these two teams faced was in 2019. The final score of that game was 67-63. I remember that one. I'm a huge Mike Leach guy, RIP, man, one of the best. They blew a 32-point lead in the third quarter to have that one go to UCLA. I think Washington State, while it's not a revenge game, I think they're just a better team. They get the win here.
Dave, you heard me. I had 3 different picks before the show started, and that was one of them.
Until
I finally decided on Arkansas.
Broncos or Jets Sunday?
Jets.
JETS.
Give me Denver.
Zach Wilson is back,
Give me Denver.
Brees Hall breakout game.
Back at it on Monday. Hope you'll join us 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern.
Cutter.
Enjoy the football weekend.
Have a Cutter.